Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Welcome everyone to our general board meeting at the Montecito Sanitary District, April 8th, 2021. It is 1:30, almost 1:40, and we're going to call the meeting to order. I just let you know that while the MSD board is in session, all board members must preserve the order, decency, and decorum at all times and be respectful while others are speaking. And we'll go ahead and start with roll call.
Director
So-
Johnson,
Here,
Director Barrett,
Here.
Director Eversole,
Here.
Director Newquist. I'm showing is currently absent, and Director Fuller also currently showing as absent.
so let's go ahead with public comment. Is there anyone in the public like to speak that it's not on our agenda? The topic's not on our agenda. Would anyone like to speak?
Director Johnson, we received a public comment via email that I will now read into the record.
Yeah, please do so.
Dear Montecito Sanitary District Board of Directors, thank you for serving the Montecito community and for your interest in recycled water. I request that the Montecito Sanitary District Board of Directors please post email addresses on the MSD website so that you can be contacted directly, as well as any reports or studies regarding recycled water. Enhancing the public's ability to communicate directly with the board members and to view public information in the form of studies and reports can only improve communication, transparency, and public trust. Thank you for allowing my comments to be read into public comment. I am unable to attend personally because of my work schedule. Wishing the MSD much success in 2021. Rustin Slager of Circle Drive, Santa Barbara, California.
Thank you. And I think we discussed that last board meeting that we would go, any comments, they could go ahead and contact the sanitary district direct, or is that correct?
Anyone may contact the district directly. I can forward any emails to all directors at any time,
Thank you.
if that's how you would wish to continue.
Thank you. So we're going to start with approval of minutes, and I think we'll just go by each group. I think, Bessie, will you help us with that? I think there's 3 sets of minutes. Is that correct?
There are. We had first the meeting minutes of the regular meeting of March 11th.
Okay. So would anyone like to have a comment, or someone like to make a motion, or anyone like to make a comment or anything like that on the minutes? Would like someone like to make?
Director Barrett, I think.
Yeah. Madam Chair, that was a very lengthy meeting. I remember it well. There are some things in these minutes. I make a motion to approve the minutes to start with. There are some things in these minutes we need to carry forward and, into other meetings to make sure we cover all the things that we suggested doing in here. Recording against property, we took no action, policies, procedures, and then informational items. It was a very large meeting. I just want to make sure that whatever was in these minutes that we follow through and complete in future meetings is all I would suggest.
Thank you, Director Barrett. Okay, so with a motion to second?
I second it.
Thank you. Go ahead and take roll call. Any other comments? We don't, on this, we would just go with our board. I wouldn't think with our public comment. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. You should invite public comment. You can do it once. I suspect there won't be much interest in public comment on the adoption of minutes, but the public has the right to comment on that if they'd like.
Okay, so any public comment on the minutes? Okay, I don't see any hands raised or anything like that. So go ahead and take roll call. I think Betsy?
Yes, Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversole,
Aye.
Director Johnson. Sorry, I didn't have audio for you there, Director Johnson. What was your vote?
Oh, they're fixing the, out in the street there or something, the internet possibly. Yes, I.
Okay, thank you. Minutes of March 11th are passed.
And then we'll go to the minutes of March 25th. Is there any comment from the board? I hear none. Any comments from the public? Any hands raised?
No hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you. So go ahead. We'll go. Someone like to make a motion?
Make a
I,
motion to approve.
I second.
Okay.
You're too quick, Woody.
You guys have beat each other. Go ahead, Betsy, go ahead and take roll call.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Johnson.
Aye.
Minutes of
moved.
March 25th have passed.
So we'll go ahead and look at the minutes of March 30th. Any comments from the board? Any comments? Did you have a comment? Okay, I thought Dawn was it. Okay, any comments from the public? I don't see any hands raised. So let's go ahead and do, is someone like to make a motion?
Make the motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
For that? Let's go ahead, Betsy, let's go ahead and take roll call.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
and Director Johnson.
Aye.
Minutes of the March 30th meeting have passed.
Thank you. So the next item would be the approval of payables. So we're going to get into the board list of payables. This is to do with the financial committee. Do we have any comment on that? On the financial?
We have the capital improvement project on page 12 of 34 of 123,000. Do we know what our total has been spent on that project so far by chance?
Okay, wait a minute. Wait, okay, so I have page 12. You said page 12 or 13?
Page 12. Oh, it says 13 on her, but it says
Yeah.
12 at the
Oh,
bottom.
sorry, you're right. It says 12 at the bottom.
Yeah.
One of those payments, a small one, is for Romero Canyon. Riven Rock, which is not completed yet. Two of those payments are listed on that page.
This has nothing to do with payables. This is more of a curiosity. If we had a budget for Riven Rock, and I just wondered how much we'd spent thus far.
Carrie, can you help refresh my memory if, you know, what payments we're expecting?
Sure. So we're still within the budget of what the board approved and the change orders that the board approved. So we're just waiting for them to do a last installation of the air vac valve, and then the project will be complete. And then we'll give the full reporting to the board of everything that was spent and which property owners have repaid the district.
Okay.
Good.
The next page, 13 of 34. I noticed there's an Iron Horse auto body for 13,284 on the damage to the truck that was broken into. It seemed like we've already paid 13,000 Iron Horse. Was that a different vehicle? So we had $13,000 damage on two different trucks.
Yes.
So 26,000 total damage on two trucks then.
Yes, and we've claimed all of that with our vehicle insurance.
Okay. And then the last one that caught my eye is Mark's Dominion, Price Postal and Pharma, 13,262 in legal services. Mark, that's a little high. We usually run around, less than that half. Is that because we're gearing up, you just came on board, that sort of thing? Are we going to expect this type of billing in the future, or no way to tell?
Well, I'd be surprised if it was that much month in and month out. I think your annual budget's probably around 30,000 for attorney fees, 35,000, something like that.
Right.
So that's just a product of matters that have been assigned to me by the board.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I thought there was quite a bit
And
been done.
just so you know, I provide a detailed, description of the legal services and the time spent. So if there are any questions on that, feel free to talk to me about it and we can address the details of that.
Right. I just wanted the district to be ready going forward if we're going to anticipate bills like this.
I don't think that would be normal.
We'll just have to, we'll shut down Riven Rock.
Probably not a good idea.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
That's
Any
all I had on the
questions?
payables.
Thank you, Director Barrett. Was there any other questions? Okay. And this is all reviewed in financial committee, is that correct?
Yes.
And was that brought up during that committee, those questions?
Madam President, Directors of the Board, it's been a couple months since we had a Finance Committee meeting. Payables are a regular item of the regular board meeting. They don't go separately to the Finance Committee, but they are approved individually by both the General Manager and the Board Treasurer, who, and is currently the check signer. So these have not previously gone to a Financial Committee is, well, guess what I'm trying to say?
If I'm correct, is the financial committee meet twice a month or once a month?
No, on an ad hoc basis as called.
So maybe what we could suggest is that the financial committee meet at least once a month, so we could sort all this out ahead of time. Because if you want us to look at this approval, and I really appreciate the questions in our meeting, but it'd be great if the financial really look at these numbers. So when are these numbers actually prepared? Because it says like March 26th. So that gives you enough time to have a meeting. Is that correct?
We prepare payables on a biweekly basis and then report them in the next month's packet.
This was, I see all the dates here. It's like 3/26 and today's like April the 8th. So I'm just wondering if we could, the financial could set up, and if you want me to help coordinate that, that's fine. I could, that should be really a financial meeting to look at all of these ahead of time. I think that would be really helpful.
I can coordinate a date with the Finance Committee to meet at the end of the month to review payables before the standing board meeting. Is that what you would like?
Great, yes, that'd be great. Would that be okay with the Finance Committee?
Well,
Yes.
are you wondering if the finance committee needs to be involved in the approval of the accounts payables, or just the summation after March 26th?
After March 26th.
So I would
It's-
suggest we meet in the first week of each month, because that'll be prior to the board meeting,
Okay,
like the 1st through the 7th, whatever is a good day.
Yeah.
Does
okay.
that sound good, Don?
Yes.
Okay.
Woody, we asked for the capital items that would be spent in 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and 25 until 30. We requested that, I guess, 3 weeks ago. And as of now, I haven't received it.
Is staff working on that, or?
Yes, may I suggest that instead of waiting for the first week of May, we have a Finance Committee meeting coming up here in April. We can review quarterly reports before they're presented to the May board meeting, along with those capital improvement project estimates coming. But we
That
don't
works
have
for
to
the
schedule it now. We can work offline after the meeting to schedule a time for an upcoming Finance Committee meeting.
So the second Thursday in May would be the 13th. I'm looking at a calendar. Would that be our board meeting in May?
Yes.
Okay. So instead of doing it that first week of May, you'd like to do it sometime prior to that then, Betsy?
I'm just saying we could if you would like, or we could meet the first week in May if that's soon enough for you.
Oh, either one's fine with me.
Okay.
I didn't know what's good for staff or what's going to be presented to the finance committee. Is it a better time first part of May or last part of this month?
First part of May is fine for me. We could meet Tuesday, the 4th. That gives us enough time if anything out of that committee needs to be added to the packet that goes on the 13th.
Okay. And notice for that meeting is 24 hours. Is that correct?
For the finance committee meeting, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Don, does that sound good? 4th, that's
Sure.
a Tuesday. And we'll do it at 5:30 a.m. Get it out of the way.
Amen.
Time, right?
Amen.
Are we doing that central time, Director Barrett?
Yeah.
I'll have
What's
to
good?
get up a half an hour early.
All
'Cause I
right.
got up at 6.
Oh, goodness. Well, do we want to set all our meetings at 2 o'clock
I
henceforth?
think I like to do that. I just think it's just,
Okay.
I just think there's to be easier for everyone to remember. And if we have presentations, everything's at 2,
Okay, so that's board meetings, committee meetings, ad hoc, everything.
everything.
Got
It's
it.
just an
Okay.
easier process, because if we have special district meetings on other special districts, usually they have it in the morning. And then we're here in the afternoon, so it'd be perfect.
Okay, so I've got finance down for 2 p.m. May 4th being a Tuesday.
Yep,
Perfect.
2
All
o'clock.
right, 2 o'clock.
Does the board want to take actions to change their standing board meeting from 1:30 to 2 o'clock? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll
let's
make a
go ahead.
motion.
So,
I'll make a motion.
I'm
second that.
sorry,
Or no,
excuse me for a
Oh.
second. So
Mark's
so
coming
this-
in.
This item isn't on the agenda.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Betsy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I assume in December, the board adopts a resolution or else the bylaws provide for, I don't recall.
Yes, in December, the annual organizational decisions set the meeting time for 1:30. I don't
Right.
believe it was a resolution, but it was part of those decisions.
Okay, so we just have to redo that, but it's fine to do that. You're perfectly, but let's put that on the next agenda.
Will
and
do.
then going
Well, also
forward.
too, maybe we should have do we need to actually have the policies and procedures? Look at that. Do they get involved in that part at all?
Not really. That's not part of the policies and procedures handbook, I don't believe.
Okay, I will note that as an item to place on the next agenda for May 13th.
Okay, perfect.
13th, okay.
Okay,
So May
let's-
13th will be at 1:30 then, obviously. And then we agendize it for that meeting. Okay, I make a motion to approve the payables as they are.
Would someone like to make a,
Second,
okay. Any comments from the public? Please raise your hand. Do we hear anyone? Okay, bring it back to the board. Go ahead, let's take a roll call.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
aye.
Director Johnson,
Aye. Motion
Okay.
passes.
payables approved, yes.
So we're going into the old business, and we're going to start with the Merrill Canyon Sewer Main Extension Project. So you have that in your report. And that is on what page is that on? That's it. I have to look at my staff report. Is that on?
I've got page 14 of 34.
Okay. So has everybody read the staff report? Okay. So is there any questions at all regarding this Merrill Canyon Sewer Main Extension? Because it's allowing the Tierra Contracting from, if this is the one I'm reading right, 30,000 to 70,000 to cover the county repaving requirement. And maybe we should get some clarification on that. And maybe the interim general manager might be able to help me answer this question. On that, it seems like from 30,000 to 70,000, it's over 100% increase. based on the budget. Can you explain why? Is Tony Wong there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so you have an increase or on the allowance of that Romero Canyon from 30,000, just everything you're asking for a change order allowance? And I like why it's increased 100%.
Yes, because the requirement for the work involved on the street paving is substantial difference than the original design, that the allowance for to do only the slurry seal on the entire street section. And the requirement from the permit of the county require us to coplanar 2-inch and replace with 2-inch of AC. So actually it explains a little bit more detail in a different manner under the physical impact. See, what happened is that the change order requires something like over $62,000, but the slurry seal was $11,872. So that's a big difference. Since we do have a $30,000 allowance at that time, so we need to increase 40 to 70,000, meaning it's a 40,000 increase to cover this change order, with a little bit of leftover for any other unforeseen details.
that-
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is that pretty common on these change order too? Because I noticed that we're getting increases on these change orders. Is that pretty common that we, with these change orders, because of that slurry? I mean, is that what?
Well,
just
I
need-
wouldn't say it's a comment, and it all depends how the design project to deal with regarding to permit requirement. So in other words, we did not have the full criteria from the county. I believe this is the process over here with the Santa Barbara County, that they do not define everything until afterward when you get the permit. So the design part of it has to make certain assumptions what is needed. And I believe Kerry had reached out to the county and talked to them regarding to the requirement. And then at first they said, okay. And the way it is designed, well, then when you go put a permit, maybe some other people interpreted the street differently. And that's why the big requirement came in. And if I got it correctly, and then Kerry can add on anything if you wish.
Okay, well, I just wanted to know, when you go back to the county, if they said that it's okay based on the original way it was written, it would have been good if maybe we got that in writing, based on what they said originally. So
Well,
that would probably help us.
yeah,
I mean,
I would be recommended that we should have them sign off as part of the preliminary design, but I am not familiar with the Santa Barbara County's requirement and regulations. But in my work, I have always been clear the permit, like whether it's Caltrans or some other agency, they're getting a pre-approval before I bid the project.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So I guess what they're asking for is an increase, and this is over and above the capital improvement projects they're looking at. So this is an extra 40,000, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then where does this credit come in? Is there a credit on top of that or what?
Yeah, if you look at the physical impact, the last table,
Uh-huh.
it shows a credit of $11,872 that for the work that they're not going to do, and that makes a net increase of $56,125. The second line.
Was the original permit that the district filed incorrect or what?
I'm not sure if is correct or incorrect. Carrie, can you add on the requirement by the county?
Sure. So the county does not do a pre-approval of the plans. The only time they review the plans and write their permit is after it's already bid. So I had explained to kind of Tony that this is more or less the same thing that happened on Ribbon Rock, that they had given us direction that they would allow a certain slurry seal to take place, and then they changed their minds. And they changed their minds after we had already bid and the project. So that's why this additional grinding and repaving work came in after. And we have no control over the county's recommendations. They've been kind of doing this recently on a few things, and it's very difficult to get any of their direction in writing. So that's something that we need to work on with the county to try and get this stuff squared away in writing.
For the project, yeah.
Right. And that's
Yeah,
been a
that would
struggle
be-
with them.
Yeah, I appreciate, Carrie, if you could really, ask the county, because I mean, if this is going to continue to happen, it's going to be quite expensive, because everything is like 40,000, 50,000 or whatever. That's 100% more than what was originally done. Because was that basically completed? And then you have to grind up that whole street and then put another slurry top on that? Is that what it is?
Yeah, so they're basically requiring that you grind down 2 inches and then repave that so that the road looks pretty. So it's not a structural requirement, it's an aesthetics requirement. And we've been trying to argue with them, with the county, that it's just not necessary, and it becomes a financial burden on these projects, and they didn't care.
So essentially the money was spent on the slurry. Then you got direction from the county, they didn't like it. And now the work has to be done again. This is double work.
No, the
Right,
work
right.
hadn't been done yet. It was only bid, and it was in the scheduled work that the contractor was going to be doing, but it hadn't happened yet. So
Okay,
the permit that we got from the county, we received right when the project started, but the project had already bid and already had the line item work for the slurry, but the county's permit requires the grind and repave. So
Then they have to regrind it, is that it? Or you just to bring it back to that certain height or something, or?
No, let me clarify that. What they have to do is to cold plane down the from the pavement to remove 2 inches of the existing asphalt concrete. And then they come back and replace with the asphalt, new asphalt of 2 inch thick for the street pavement.
but I mean, this is not the first project we've done. Has it been the same procedure in the past on other areas that we've worked?
no, they changed their procedures recently, and their comments of why they changed their procedures had to do with making sure all the roads look pretty after the debris flow. So that was their comment. And then for like Lilac, we got special permission from them for the upcoming project that we don't have to do the grinding and repaving, because it would be a hardship on that project for those property owners. But for Romero and Ribbon Rock, we were not able to get that that adjusted.
That gets all these change orders gets really expensive. So, okay. Well, thank you for the clarification. I think they really have to work with the county, and before things are really started or bidded out, I mean, I think they really need to sign off, or you have to get some kind of approval or sign off from them, because to come back and ask for this, I mean, it
No
gets
question.
Yeah, I just think that'd be a good idea. So thank you for the clarification. When is this supposed to start? Like April next week or something to finalize this?
Yeah, the grinding and repaving work is gonna take place next week.
And it's the same contractor? And
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, well, do we need to go ahead and, does someone like to make a motion? I think we should probably make a motion and see if this is approved. I think it's something that, I don't know if we have a choice. So,
We
but we
don't.
should probably, huh? I don't think we do, unless you go out and get another bid or whatever, but I think we don't have a choice. This has to be done. Did they give you a timeline, Carrie?
No, they did not, but it would be a lot more expensive if we went out to bid again, because the cost is over 15,000. We'd have to rebid just the grinding and repaving work and go out to bid for others. So I don't think that's a really good idea. It's definitely helpful to just get it done as quickly as possible and within this project itself.
Phil should probably make a motion, even though we don't have a chance to really do anything about it. Let's go ahead and make a motion. Someone like to make a motion?
Well, one more question I have is this justification. It says something about an encroachment permit. Santa Barbara Road encroachment permit? Does that tie into this grinding request by the county?
Yeah, so that's what the permit that gave the requirement for the grinding and repaving work. So in order to do any type of work within the county road right away, you have to get a county encroachment permit. And the contractor is responsible for getting that encroachment permit. And within that permit, it lists all the different requirements that the county is expecting regarding traffic control, regarding shoring, and any pavement work.
The county said that Romero Canyon Road is a collector street and that an exemption cannot be given. What is a collection street?
It means that there's just more traffic on it than, let's say, like Lilac or Orchard or Tabor Lane or some of the other little side streets. It's a heavily traveled road.
Okay. 50,000.
Yeah.
Says the total increase in the contract is 50,253. Where am I missing this $70,000 change order?
We're only asking for an increase in 40,000. So
So,
the original change order allowance was 30, and we're asking for $40,000 extra for a total change order allowance of 70.
Over 100%. So,
but the
So
total
the
amount of the
30
contract increase is only 50,000. So
Correct.
why are we asking for 70?
I wanted to have a little bit additional extra just in case during these last couple weeks of construction that if they ran into something else that we would need an additional change order for.
So you've got a $20,000 buffer in here.
Correct.
Known caller.
I
Okay.
think we really have to streamline this where I think we have to go move forward on this because they are probably having to do this. I think the next time this is done, we really have to get the county to sign off. I just think that every time it's over 100%, I mean, I think I saw some other ones in the past where these change orders, and it was like, I didn't really see as much backup. There's more backup on this now, but now we understand the problem. But the county, and I just think that, she did request a hardship on this other area. And I think that, with this impact, I mean, who pays for that? I mean, we have to absorb that. I mean, the residents,
The residents do.
they pay for that, the difference of
Yes.
that.
So it becomes a cost of the project and it's split between all the property owners.
And they've agreed to that.
They have
They
to.
agreed when they signed the agreement that there could be additional change order work and that the cost could increase.
There's a motion on the table, I believe. Does someone make a motion? Or
I'll make the motion to approve.
Would someone like to second that?
I'll second it.
Any questions from the public? I don't see any hands raised. Okay, so Carrie, go ahead and take roll call, please.
I'll take roll call. Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversol,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
and Director Johnson.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to 6B, which is the Highway 101 Sewer Main Crossing Relocation Project. So let's go.
Madam President, I believe we were on item 5A, so we'd be.
Oh, I'm
moving to
sorry.
item 6A, pardon me.
Okay, yes, you're right. New business purchasing policies. And I'm going to turn this over to Mark, I think, our legal counsel, because I think he has language for this one. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes,
There are two resolutions related to the purchasing policy updates.
What page is that on?
Sure, are you ready? So as you recall, so there are two separate resolutions. And the first resolution is an election to withdraw from the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act. And the board discussed that last time, and this is the official step to do that. So this is just a procedural requirement. So what I'll do is I'll leave that alone right now and skip directly to the next resolution, which is the resolution that establishes the district's purchasing rules and regulations. And what this resolution does is it comports with the provision of state law that govern our requirements. And there's two sections: Government Code Section 54201 and Public Contract Code Section 20,800. 54201 requires that every public agency adopt rules and regulation regarding the purchase of supplies and equipment. And so this does this. There isn't a lot of guidance in there as to when supplies and equipment can be purchased by staff as opposed to a contract approved by the board. There isn't a lot of guidance in there on when they have to be competitively bid and purchased, or you can avoid that. That compared to what the Public Contract Code says with respect to competitively bidding contracts for public works projects. So what we've done to simplify things, and this is up to the discretion of the board, we've established the same threshold. So what we're proposing in this resolution is that for supplies and equipment, $15,000 or more, they have to follow a competitive process that's described in the resolution. And that mirrors the competitive process that's required for public contract codes, public contract projects that's described in the public contract code. So, but the board has some discretion. You could lower that number or you could raise that number. I wouldn't personally recommend lowering it because it adds some procedural burdens on staff and on the district to go out and get 3 competitive bids and so forth as described in the resolution. But it mirrors the amount that's required for public works projects that's required by the district. The other thing that this resolution does is it sets forth a procedure for the contracting for special services, which are defined in here, which are essentially, accountants, engineers, architects, attorneys, and so forth. Normally, unlike public works projects, when you hire an accountant, you don't have to go out and get the cheapest accountant. You have some flexibility to hire someone who has some special expertise, and so you're not restricted by some pure lowest possible bid to hire your accountants or your engineers, your architects, or your attorneys. But this does create some procedure for the retention of special services, and it creates a typical an RFQ process or an RFP process where you can request bids and then experts respond, and then the district has some discretion in who they hire. So that's described in here as well. And then on the public works projects, all this does is, as you recall, last year at some point in time, the district decided to be governed by the uniform, what UPCAA. And that provides some flexibility to the district. You can increase the amount of bids, and it provides some flexibility, but for whatever reason, there just seemed to be some level of dissatisfaction with that process. So what this does is just puts us back into the public contract code. The public contract code requires, and this applies to every sanitary district formed under the 1923 Act, and it sets the purchase of, or the process for competitively bidding public works projects, and it's $15,000. If it's less than that, you don't have to go through any competitive bidding process. If it's that or more, you have to go through a standard competitive bidding process. It sets this up so that the district's general manager is authorized to enter into those contracts that are below the threshold of $15,000. If it's above the threshold of $15,000, the contract will come back to the board and the board will approve it. You don't have to do that. You could not have a single contract come back to the board if that's what you wanted. Every single process, whether it's a $15,000 contract or a $200,000 contract, you could provide your general manager with the discretion to enter into those contracts following the competitive procedures described in the resolution. So that's your choice. The other thing I just wanted to mention is that this makes it clear, and it's just clear by virtue of how of the law. There is no contract of any amount that isn't approved by the board of directors by virtue of your approval of the annual budget. So, whether it's $100 contract or a $10 million contract, it's got to be a part of your budget, and it's got to be approved in that budget for staff to enter into those contracts. So I don't want to give the impression that staff can just go out and enter into willy-nilly contracts for $10,000 or $15,000 without those being expressly approved by the board as a part of your annual budget process. So that's the ultimate control that the board has on the expenditure of every single penny that's spent by the district for whatever type of project. So anyway, so that's it. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
This resolution, let me give you two examples.
Yeah, Director Barrett, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. The DAFT unit that just got replaced, the original one from 1961 was sitting in the yard. So it was replaced. We received one bid for $532,000 for that piece of equipment. We didn't get three bids, we got one. Does this address that where we need to get three bids on everything?
No. So I'm sorry, what was the value of that?
532,000.
But so for if that's considered supplies and equipment, then it would go through a competitive process, and the process is described in here. There may be instances when there's only, so staff would go through a process and try to solicit three bids for that piece of equipment. Or you can go through a notice process where you just put it in the newspaper and let the world know that the district's looking for that type of piece of equipment, and allow people to respond to that notice. But you have to follow some type of a process. If you only get one bid, you only get one bid. It doesn't require you to go out and, that's the objective and the goal. But if there's only one person that supplies that piece of equipment, or only one person that responds to your bid, that may say something about the project. I don't know, but it's not a requirement. If you only get one response, you only get one response. But it does require some processing under this resolution.
So, for example, that could come back to the board. Staff says they received one bid for $532,000, and the board says go out and rebid it. Doesn't mean we have to accept that one bid. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Let me give you another instance. On that same piece of equipment, Cushman was used to set it, and their fee was $190,000, and that was not even put out for bid. Does this resolution address that 190,000, if that same occurrence happened again, would need to be bid or no?
Sure. Yeah. So when it involves the construction or the construction work then the entire project would be covered by a competitive bidding process. So if
Okay.
so under those circumstances, the way this resolution will work and the way state law works is that the equipment and the installation of the equipment, which is a public work, would have to go through a competitive bid process, standard competitive bid. You send out the specifications, you send out your contractual requirements, you give them a certain period of time within which to respond and bid, and then you have a deadline, and then the district opens up those bids, and for every responsible bidder, it will be awarded to the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. That means that they're qualified to do the work and that they've met all the requirements of the bid. So when you're buying supplies and equipment in connection with some type of a project or construction, that goes through that type of a sealed bid process.
We were told the 190,000 didn't need to be bid out because it was in some sort of category.
That may have been under the old procedure, the uniform construction contract.
What's that category? Services or something like that? There
Yeah,
was-
it doesn't sound like it. To me, that sounds like a public improvement project.
Well,
I
Capital
don't know. I
improvement?
mean, Director Baird, I don't know that much about that, so I don't want to, opine on it, but
that's what we're
me-
talking about. Capital improvement projects have to, certain amount has to go out to bid. I mean, that's what we're been trying to strive for, where we do get, have them get bids and so that can be compared over a certain amount. And I believe what I heard was 10,000. Is that correct? Maybe Woody, I think you were involved in it 2 years prior to when I came aboard. So was it set? Was there a certain amount set at 10,000 or something? I thought there was some kind of a limitation. I don't know how it got to 15.
Well, this is what state law provides. It's Public Contract Code section 20,800, which applies to 1923 Act sanitary districts. Says that the state legislature has established that number. You could go in and say, you know what, we want to go lower. We want it to be for a $5,000 contract. So you have the ability to go up to $15,000, but the board has the discretion to reduce that. I don't think that's recommended. That's not a very big number for in this day and age. It's pretty low, but you have the ability to go lower if that's what you wanted.
Well, I just want to make sure this resolution closes the door to where if someone comes to the district and does $190,000 worth of work, that is put out for bid and not just awarded to one company. And that's what happened with the DIFT unit.
Right.
It wasn't even bid.
Under
There's
this
a problem
resolution,
there.
That's a big problem in my mind.
well,
Yeah.
Under this resolution, that project would be competitively bid, sealed bid.
Okay.
The equipment along with the actual construction work.
Gary, what was that category whereby the 190,000 didn't have to be bid out on that DAFT unit?
I actually don't recall, Woody.
Okay. Because it was in services or something, reason was from the general manager that it did not need to be put out for bid, and it was awarded to Cushman, no questions asked. In fact, the board was essentially notified of it after the fact. So, which seems strange to me. But you think that this resolution then, Mark, will close the door on that type of thing happening in the future?
Yes.
Okay. So essentially, there's no category that's not subject to review as long as if it exceeds $15,000 for bidding purposes. Is that right?
That's the way it's set up now.
Okay.
And
All right.
so yeah, the issue is that means from an administrative point of view, it's going to take more time. It's more processing.
Right.
It's going to have, so if you have a contract under the old rules that you wanted to enter into tomorrow, the staff's going to have to wait until, the May regular meeting. So it's I want to give you both sides of the equation.
Yeah,
But, and so it's going to take some more planning but that's the burden.
thank you.
Mhm.
General manager has the discretion. He would be looking at all of the items that for bidding or purchasing. So I think once we get the general manager, that's important for the general manager to look at this. And I don't know if maybe the general manager, the new general manager should look at this because he should really look at the capital improvement projects. He should look at some of the change orders. He should look at everything. So we are trying to get our general manager aboard sooner than later, rather than in December. So I think in a way, you know, our board really, I like to see the general manager look at this carefully and maybe get input to legal counsel. I don't know if, if this is the state, and like you said, it's a state requirement, but I don't know if he feels, I like to have that decision really with the general manager as well. That's just my feeling. We don't have anything in place right now. Is that correct, legal counsel?
No, you're under the uniform. I can never remember the acronym, but it's
Public
the
inspecting
Uniform
costs.
Public
Uniform
Construction Cost Accounting.
Construction Cost Accounting Act.
Mhm.
And to me, one of the problems isn't the right word. My impression is one is that there aren't any procedures in place to implement that act. It provides a lot more discretion and ability to avoid not competitive bidding, but going to the board for approval on individual contracts. So it relieves it's administratively more favorable to the district. It doesn't have the board approving every contract over $15,000. So maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. But there, at least my impression from my conversations with current district staff is there's not a lot of guidance that's available to district staff. And there was an effort to create a pamphlet or a paper that was going to inform staff what to do, when to do it. And in my experience, I represent a lot of smaller public agencies like the sanitary district. And if you bring these procedures that are great for the city of Santa Barbara, the city of Los Angeles, that have tons of staff, then it's fine. We just don't have that. So this is a pretty simple mechanism for how you get approval for various types of contracts. It's very simple. And the only thing you need to look at is this resolution. And then if it, depending on where you are on the size of the project, you either go through a competitive bidding process or you don't. You either have the district general manager approving the contract or it goes to the board. So there's not a need to have an additional piece of paper to provide more detail to staff. They have a resolution. It accomplishes everything with respect to any type of service staff is going to purchase. So for a smaller district, this is great. I wouldn't recommend this procedure for the city of Ventura, or the city of Los Angeles, or a bigger agency that has more staff and is doing bigger projects. But for a smaller district like this, it's worked with others.
Thank you, legal counsel. I like to hear from the interim general manager that we have now, Tony Wong. Have you seen this at all? Has anyone talked to you about this? Because this is the first time I've seen this. I know you talked about it, that you were going to work on this, but then this is the first time I've seen it. So is the interim general manager here, Tony Wong?
I'm here, yes.
Is this the first time you've seen this?
Well, yes, a resolution regarding to authorize a certain amount these type of contracts almost appear in most cities that I work with. And of course, the act that Mark was reciting to, I have not looked at the act itself, so I'm pretty sure he's correct. And it is a good procedure. to move forward, because most of the city nowadays that they go on a $25,000 public works contract at a $25,000 range that staff can approved by the city manager. In this case, would be approved by the general manager. The staff can move ahead with this type of resolution. It's good to have on the book the facility a lot of Minnesota administrative work for the staff.
Well, thank you. It just surprised me that no one referred to you, your interim general manager, and they went to staff. So I don't understand that. I would hope that they had actually reviewed this with you since you're interim general manager, but they seem like they went to staff. Is that like Betsy and Carrie? Is that what I'm hearing? So they're making the decisions with you, Mark?
No, I drafted this resolution. This was the instruction I got from the board at our last meeting in response to this question. And I was instructed to draft a resolution that creates a procedure that comports with state law that governs the sanitary district. So I drafted this, and frankly, I think I provided a copy to several people, and I think both you and Tony Wong were on it. Now I know you get a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of emails going back and forth. So it's
Yeah.
probably below your pay grade on at a certain respect. But this came from the instruction by the board to me at the last regular meeting. I think it was a regular meeting.
Right, it was. It was true. Yeah, but I just, when you mentioned it, it was like you and the staff talked about it. So I never talked to you about this, and I don't think Tony ever talked to you about this. So anyway, it's one of those things that I guess it was like missing something there. But well, thank you very much for actually working on this. So Director Barrett or Director Eversole or Director Fuller have any other comments?
No comments.
I think it's been well thought out. I think staff needs some direction and the general manager on what the district would like to bid out and things. It looks like it covers all bases. It says equipment, services, everything. For example, we just had the contract company do a analysis on our electric panel, and that was like 13,200, I think. And I don't know if he spent all of that or not, but the staff and general manager would have latitude to go ahead and do that. That's prior, of course, to a bidding process, and everything's brought to the board anyway. But there are two resolutions here. One is canceling the current accounting method that we're in and getting rid of that. And then the second resolution puts into effect this procedure prepared by council. And I'm good to go with it right now, unless you want to have a special meeting about it or have General Manager Wong look it over. I'm okay with that also. But I think as they stand right now, I'm good to go with both resolutions. In addition, if there are any bumps in the road, say 6 months from now or whatever, we'll know it, and we can adjust this resolution that council prepared, to cover those instances should they ever occur again in the district. But I think it's good to have a number. You're right, Madam Chair, it was $10,000. And then we had that emergency resolution we passed, which gave the general manager, after the debris flow, during the pandemic last year when it started in March, unlimited, whereby the general manager could essentially spend any amount and then bring it to the board after the fact. That, of course, has been rescinded and it's back to 10,000. So I think I'll have to ask Mark this. Since that amount is 10,000, Mark, in that resolution we did, I think about 3 months ago, would that have to be altered or amended in order to approve this resolution, or is this supersede and replace it?
So, yeah, this will make that procedure go away.
Okay.
And the other thing will, you know what, I've just noticed, do we have the ordinance adoption on here as well? Did that fall off the agenda?
Mark, the ordinance adoption has to be published twice before public hearing and can be adopted. I can share it with the board.
So Betsy, I don't think that's, well, we can talk about it. I mean, it's not on the agenda, so I don't think that's the procedure for the compensation. There's special procedures that apply for the compensation ordinance, but just a standard ordinance, I don't think those procedures apply, but nevertheless, it's not on the agenda, so we can't act on it as well. So the answer to your question, Director Barrett, is there's an ordinance that will go with this as well that will rescind or repeal the ordinance that was adopted in connection with those, with your other purchasing requirements. So
Okay.
what was there will go away, and this new single resolution will govern the purchasing of everything: supplies, equipment, special services, and public works project contracts.
Essentially, it's all money spent by the district. There's nothing left out in this resolution. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, yes, I mean, your employees are part of it, you know. Your employees are your business expense, and they're not in here. You don't hire and pay your employees like this. Yeah.
I just wanted to hear you say it.
So I have a quick question.
Okay.
I think that I heard, I think it was like Director Barrett mentioned about the counting. Was that going to be changed, the way that that's done? It's be more transparent? Is that what, or what's someone, I think something was happening there. The county part?
Are you saying accounting or counting?
The count, the counting, I guess. It was where they were talking about, is that what you brought up, Director Barrett? Something was gonna be more transparent, the counting, the way.
Well, the
that-
accounting, yeah.
If you didn't
Essentially,
understand that
what the resolution prepared by council will do is essentially anything above 15,000 will need to be, go to the bid process. But they also have an emergency clause in here, page 22 of 34, whereby if there is an emergency such as, God forbid, another debris flow or something of that nature, the general manager has the authority to do whatever is necessary to take care of that, disaster, and then inform the board afterwards. And I would think that's just normal operating procedure if we need people in the field to repair things and, if something horrible like that happens again. So I'm okay with that also.
Okay, thank you, Director. Was there any other comment? Is there any other comment was there any other board member? I didn't see.
So Doreen, I'm here. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
hello.
There's Dana. Good.
Yeah,
You're
well,
welcome. And I think, okay, we'll have a full board now. Thank you.
yeah, no matter
Director
what I
Newman.
did, I couldn't get in until Betsy got me out of jail. So anyway, I've been following this resolution, and I don't really feel like there's any discussion necessary other than what has gone on here. And I would make the motion that we adopt this resolution.
Okay,
You're speaking of both resolutions, Dana?
Correct, yes.
I second that motion.
okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. We'll bring that back to any discussion, additional session with the board. If not, any questions from the public? Any hands raised? I don't see any or any. Okay. We'll bring that back to the board. We could go ahead and take roll call on that. Betsy, go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah, but-
Director, the motion is to adopt both resolutions 2021-930 and 2021-931, opting out of the Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act and adopting new rules and regulations for the purchasing of supplies, equipment, special services, and contractors for public improvement projects. Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversole,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Newquist,
Aye,
and Director Johnson.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. So now we're going to go to, we talked about both of those. That's a real resolution. Okay, so we're going to actually go to 6B, the Highway 101 Sewer Main Crossing Relocation Project. Do you have that? Okay, so we're going to go ahead. Let's have the interim General Manager, Tony Wong, go ahead. You have the staff report. Has everybody seen the staff report? And that, Betsy, why don't you tell us what page that's on again? That's on page 18, I believe, is it? Yeah. So 18 on the staff report.
Page
Yes, in
19.
PDF, it's page 19, but it's numbered as page 18. I apologize about
Oh,
that. But it's also
okay.
up on the screen now.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the project that we went out for the consultant selection for the design of the relocation main along 101 State Highway. And it was required that by Caltrans that they building the bridge, they're going to interfere with our sewer main, force main near the creek. So I believe was March 12 that we sent out an IRP for qualification selections. And we received the IRP on April the 4th. So it is right now under review. And we just want to present to the board this information so that the board can review that and allow us to make the selection process.
Okay.
To make the selection process of the consulting first. Then we have to come back to the board for with our review and recommendation for the award at the next meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Tony. This project actually is a joint project between Caltrans and SB-SCAG. Okay, so again, I'd like to know when this project was brought up to our sanitary district, because I believe that we heard about this, I guess, briefly at our last board meeting, and then last Friday, I believe, Tony, you were asked to review that. So, and then also there's a letter that the sanitary district will be receiving, which is a conflict letter from Caltrans. The reason why I say this about when this was brought up, because I believe this was brought up possibly when Sheffield was reviewed. There's different segments of this 101, and this is the Montecito segment. I believe it's 4D or E, or it's the last segment, or maybe it's the segment D. So we are going to get this letter, and in order for our board of directors to help through this process, it would be better if we hear about these projects a lot sooner. So I think this project was brought to possibly to our sanitary district, from what I heard, probably about, I don't know if it's 2020, the beginning of 2020 or 2019. And I think if we hear about these projects, again, we could ask Caltrans and even SBK to come in. The ratepayers, wait, let me finish. The ratepayers have a right to hear about this project. And I think it's important that we know, because there's no budget from what I hear. So again, we need to hear about these projects so we could help, our board of directors could help. So again, I think there is concern where we're not hearing about these projects sooner, and we're rushing to get these projects approved or, reviewed. And I think it's important. We should have a presentation by Caltrans, SBSCAG, and they're willing to do that. Just to let you know, I've talked to Kristen Ayers, who is a consultant, and I worked with on this 101 and heard these projects when I served on MBAR and also on our Montecito Association. And also when I was the chair of the land use, we heard these projects. So for us not to have the ratepayers be able to hear this is something that is a concern to me. So we need to be more transparent and we need to be out there. And I think we could come up with helping. And I think that there's some kind of, I know we don't have a general manager, but this was even before when you did have a general manager, when you had an interim general manager, even before Tony. So again, I want to know, we don't have this communication gap. So I really want to be able to make sure, because they're willing to come in to actually present presentation for the public, for our community. And that would be, and I've talked to Fred Luna, who's the manager over at Caltrans, Gerald Kamadi, he's the utility engineer, a consultant, and also Kristen Ayers. And they've always come in and they've always presented so that everyone in our community understands what this project is about. Because if this is a project, maybe Tony, you could tell me approximately how you came up with possibly an estimate, because even though you don't have a budget, there must be a way that you could estimate what this project is going to cost. So I know that you have some numbers possibly in your head. So can you please tell me what you have as far as a possible numbers? Because this has to be done in 2023 when I researched it with Caltrans, but then the design has to be completed next year. So we're really at a short window. And if you brought this in a year ago, or even 6 months ago, we could have helped a little bit more. So again, Tony, would you please tell us kind of how you with some kind of a estimate, please?
Well, basically, when I get to know the project, which Kerry called me regarding to the process of sending out this IRP. So I advised her to follow the Caltrans procedure, which she did. So that's the first time I got into reviewing the project. So Kerry sent me a lot of detailed information with the realignment and things like that. So I did talk to her on a number of things. But in this kind of project, generally you look at the size, what needs to be done and things like that. And I just apply a standard practice based on, if we have a construction cost, we use a percentage, but if we don't have it, I use the linear footage of the project size. From that, I know that the contract will be bidder on. So I know this project is going to cost $500,000 to $1 million in range. That's what my estimated figure is, between 500,000 to $1 million that can be on this size of the project, because we have two tunnels that jack and bore underneath the freeway and also under the creek. So those are expenses per linear foot. It has to be a double pipe, and that's the general idea. So a lot of time that I use this kind of rule of thumb estimate if we haven't done the detail. In this case, the consultant will have to do a little bit more detailed cost estimate before we go out to bid on designing the project. So regarding the design, it could be anywhere. I think I did talk to Kerry about the size of this project. That's going to be over $100,000 somewhere.
Okay, so we haven't budgeted this in our, there was no budget, so we didn't even have it in our capital improvement project for this year, or even, and again, we're going to be reviewing that again in June. So I think there's hopefully a way to maybe look at possibly, and again, I know we have to get to the design part and find out what that is, but really look into this maybe a little bit differently. And maybe we could look as far as a grant, but really go to maybe SBCAG or even like Greg Hart or Doss Williams and really ask for their help, because this is going to cost a lot of money. So I think it's really important to look at that. And I'd be willing to actually set up see if I could look into that with the Board of Supervisors to see if there's any possibility for additional help on this, because it is something that's going to impact our entire community. So it's something that we need to really carefully look at. But I'm really concerned about getting information so late. I really need that information sooner. So each of our board of directors, we're here. We all are experienced. We're all knowledgeable. We all have ways to help, and we're just can't do that if we get things last minute. So, and again, appreciate your time to review this.
President Johnson, can I interject something here?
Yes, of course. Is that Director Newquist?
Correct. Well, as Woody remembers, staff was kind enough to take us around the entire district. And so we had a basic understanding of what we do at the sanitary district, and that was over 2 years ago. We were taken to each lift station to see how they operated and how they performed and the equipment there, et cetera. And, you know, to this date, at least 3, maybe, I don't know if you've seen these lift stations, Doreen, or not, but, you know, I don't think our interim general manager has seen the facility itself and the lift stations. Not that he's not familiar with lift stations, but I think it's of value that we have a basic knowledge so we really understand what we're dealing with and working with. And because of the pandemic, we've been handcuffed from doing such a thing. So maybe it would be valuable to have appointments, make appointments for those that have not seen the equipment to actually do so.
Well, this is why I've asked for a presentation by Caltrans to really see actually what this project is about. So you do this on Zoom, they have the drawings, they have where this is actually going to impact and where the utilities are. We don't know if it's close to the Union Pacific, but if it is close to Union Pacific and they have to do something, then actually it's going to take a longer process. So it might be even more costly. So we don't know. Hopefully it's not near the Union Pacific, but usually where that bridge is not too far from there. So they're willing to do that. So I just recommend that we do set up a time at our next meeting where they're willing to come in to talk about this, because you were going to get a letter of conflict of the conflict letter. As you know, the Montecito Water District is already designed their project. It's similar, and they are actually going into construction at the end of the year. So we're behind kind of where we should be at.
Can we ask Carrie for input? Sorry, Carrie might have some input on this.
Thank you, Director Fuller. Yes, we've had meetings with Caltrans. We met with Gerald Kamadi. They gave us a pothole plan. This was last year, and we went through where we gave them all of our record drawings. They did potholes to determine where our locations of our lines are, and then they gave us their 65% plans in November, and they determined at that time that our lines were impacted by their proposed bridge. So yes, we have not received an actual letter from them, but we are and were aware as of November that we needed to move our lines for this longer, wider Oak Creek Bridge that's proposed by Caltrans. Then at that time, John had directed me to look into options about where to relocate it and how to relocate it and different flow options with regards to Post Salipo and Miramar. And then we came up with a various plan of what we thought the project should look like and how to relocate it. Then, of course, John left in January and not much happened during that time. There was no way that I was able to do anything in February, and I waited for Tony Wong to be here to review the RFP so I can send it out to get consultants to bid on this project. So that's kind of the timeline of events that has happened and what has been going on with this project.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Carrie. What I'm asking for is that if we had known about it earlier, we could possibly help. We go to talk and see, because if you do have an idea, just like Tony said, this could be quite costly to our ratepayers, to our community, how it could be impacted. So these are the things that really our board of directors could help you. So I'm just thinking that we'd like to have a presentation at our next board meeting where Fred Luna is willing to come in, and you would have possibly the utility engineer consultant come in and really have our community and ratepayers review this as well to know what's really going on, how it's going to impact with this whole project. And in the meantime, to see how we're going to be able to pay for this. So this is the type of thing that if we have some time, we could look into seeing how we could pay for this. So that's where I'm coming from, to see how we could help further if we just know about these bigger projects sooner than later. I'm not talking about the $15,000 projects. I'm talking about the $500,000 to $1 million projects. So these are type of things that are so important that will impact. And I think we have a right to be more transparent overall to our ratepayers. So that's just all where I'm coming from. So, and again, I know that you've been working hard on this project, but I think it's just been something I would have liked to know about the project sooner. And I was here in December and I didn't really hear about it until March. So, but I thank you for your time. And we're gonna go ahead. Was there any other board member like to make a comment? Director Barrett. Is he here? Okay. Is there any other board member?
Director Barrett, you're muted. I do believe Director.
There we go. Sorry, didn't want you to hear
You're blessed.
my creaking chair. So I never really heard a date when the district was first notified that we would have to move our lines. What date is that?
Wait, say that again?
When did the district know that we were going to have to move the lines?
I had an idea when they started asking for pothole information, but it got confirmed in November with their 65% plans.
So prior to that, we didn't know that if our lines were going to be impacted or not?
Correct. There was a chance that they might have adjusted the bridge, but once they issued the 65% plans, it was a done deal that we would have to move our lines.
Okay. Well, I'm like Director Johnson in that I heard about this project probably about 25 days ago is the first I heard of it. And it's a fairly major one. And if you go back to your notes on page 19 of 34 is printed. The design has to be approved by Caltrans in July of essentially 2022. That's next year. But it takes an estimated 6 to 9 months for the approval process. So back out 9 months to be a safe margin from there. You're talking October this year. Then the work needs to be completed by spring of 2023, which is not a problem. But, we're on a pretty fast track here to have plans and everything ready by October of this year, possibly not. But it's, we're really under the gun on this.
Right, and I
deal.
learned about the Caltrans approval date just last month. So, and that was in an informal meeting that I asked Gerald Kamadi what was these dates, because I had emailed them numerous times and didn't get a formal response. So I was happy that I was able to, you know, more or less track them down during a different meeting and get that date squared away. But I
Is
have
there
not
any,
rec-
does staff feel comfortable that we can have this done before October this year, the plans?
I think so. There's different options that each different consultant has, what they're thinking to do. One of the consultants made the suggestion of submitting like 65 or 75% plans to Caltrans for the review, you know, before the actual final design is done, to start going through that review process, which is a good idea to speed up the timetable. One of the other consultants felt, yes, they can finish the design and have it approved by that date that Caltrans needed. So I think each different consultant has a slightly different approach.
So what is staff asking for here? I'm confused. Summary from, what are we discussing here?
It sounds like the way that it was written by Tony was that it's the board would authorize staff to negotiate a contract with the most qualified consultant firm. And that Tony had said earlier that we would have to come back to the board next month to approve the contract. And then therefore the work wouldn't start until June.
Well, with our resolution approved today, it's now 3 bids.
Right, we have 3 consultant proposals, so they're not bids, they're proposals. And so we have been evaluating them, Tony and I, to select the most qualified consultant. Tony has not talked with me over his rankings yet, so I don't know what his thoughts are. But basically his approach would be that we would come back to the board in May with the selected consultant and the cost of the negotiated contract, and to get the board approval at that time.
Just to be clear, this project actually started with Caltrans in 2019 and 2020. I believe that our sanitary district was notified of this. So when Tony just heard about this, because I believe, Carrie, you brought this up to Carrie, to Tony on Friday. So again, I think you have to understand where he's coming from, and this should be negotiated. You can't just award contracts without a budget. You have to be able to negotiate. So
Each
again,
different consultant provided their fee estimate with their proposal.
okay, well, what I'm concerned about is where we are, because this is going to cost money. And I think my whole thing is to be transparent for our ratepayers. I understand that there's a process that you have to do and all this other stuff to get this going, but at the same time, our ratepayers need to understand there's a big project coming down here, and we could have been doing that back in February or even in January, as soon as we were on board. That should have been a priority on the list. And I didn't hear about this, and neither did Director Barrett or any of the other board, I think, until last month. So all I'm saying is that we need to hear about these projects sooner.
Well, a good example is the water district's ready to go now, right? They've got plans that are in the approval process.
Yeah, construction is going to start at the end of the year. So they already have, they're going on their project. Yeah.
Well, unless they were contacted before us about impact on their lines.
No, they heard the same time that we heard it.
So the water district moves 1 year faster than the sanitary district on projects now.
Well, no, they heard it the exact same time, but
I'm just talking about they're ready to go.
Yeah, and their board of directors heard about it too. So they already have their price and budgets and everything else. So anyway.
I'm not real sure about this procedure of bringing the recommendation from staff only to our next meeting. I would like to hear all 3 proposals and their estimated cost, not just the one selected by staff. Is that what was going to be done?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with that too. And I'd
Yeah.
like to have the presentation by Fred, and I could give him a call. I think it's important for our, it's what we would have done. MBAR, the county would have done this at MBAR. Our land use would have been all over this for our community. So it's something that our sanitary district should be doing.
So
I
I just
would-
wanted to make a statement real quick. Both Diane and John knew about this project. I don't understand why exactly they did not bring it up to you. We went to the A&O committee and talked about this project. We also went to the finance committee and talked about that this project would be coming. That's all I have to say with regards to, you know, how we can bring this earlier to you. I don't know exactly what else to do. We can put this on the screen right now, the 3 different proposals for the project. We could talk over them if you'd like to try and help move this along. Otherwise, we can just discuss this back in the May meeting.
Well, I think time's of the essence. I mean, we still have quite a bit left on the agenda today. You know, if we want to take a look at those and make a decision today, great, staff can move forward with it. That'll save 30 days. Or we can have a special meeting on it.
I think we should listen to Carrie.
I don't know if we can put them on the screen now and discuss them. Is Tony able to do that? Do you feel comfortable doing that, Tony? I think you're on mute.
I would not recommend to put the proposal on the screen right now until Carrie and I work it out. And we can present the detailed analysis like any other staff report. And you can see all 3 proposals and how we rank it and how we come up with it and things like that. We want to follow this procedure, in accordance with the Caltrans procedure. So it would premature to put everything out in the screen right now. No. Carrie, you want to add something?
No,
Thank you.
I think that's fine with your recommendation.
Am I getting a false sense of urgency that this can wait until May 13th next month for our board meeting, or do we need to have a special meeting about it?
It would be great to have a special meeting.
That's what I thought.
I think that is not a false sense. We need to move forward, and Mr. Wong, I'm concerned with this procedure. You keep referring to the Caltrans procedure for this. Do we need that? Is that something different than the regular procedure here? I mean, what's stopping us from just doing this?
Well, I think I agree with the interim general manager. He has 40 years experience in working with Caltrans. So I think we take a look. I think we could do a special meeting, and I'm for a special meeting so that they both, the general manager, interim general manager, and Carrie could work this out, and then also let me know, and I could set up a special meeting with Betsy. So I think we could do that. We're just going to have to coordinate that, and we could do that and get back to the board. Okay. So, and because I think it's a thing that also too, we could see how we could work this out and see where we are. And we should probably talk to some other people to see if there's any way that we could get a grant or anything, because this is going to be impacting the financials. Okay, so. Is there
Director
any other-
Johnson, let me clarify the Caltrans procedure. Actually, the Caltrans procedure is speed up the process than the other process. So I just want to let it go at that. It's not an additional process. It's a process that requires them to come up with the submitted proposal. So we don't have to go step by step. So we actually put 2 steps together. So it is faster in terms of consulting selection.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, if I could interject here,
Yes, Director Newquist, please.
you know, thinking that this is important to us, I think at this time, a special meeting should be called, and maybe you could search for a date and ask the directors if that date is good for them so that we can have that meeting.
Okay, so maybe what we'll do is that Tony, interim general manager, when do you think that you and Carrie will have some information for us to review?
Well, the latter part of next week is okay, by Wednesday anyway.
Okay. Is everyone, let's see. Is everyone available on the 15th? The 14th, I would not be able to attend.
15th, we have a joint strategic planning committee meeting with the water district at 10 a.m.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm talking about 2 o'clock. Is anybody available at 2 o'clock on the 15th?
I'm available.
Pardon me? Director Fuller?
I'm
I'm available.
available.
Okay, thank you. Director Barrett, just because we have a meeting in the morning, are you still available in the afternoon on the 15th?
Yes.
Director Eversole?
I don't know.
Okay. Director Newquist, are you available at 2 p.m. on the 15th?
As long as I can get in, of course.
Okay. And I will make myself available on the 15th at 2 p.m. And maybe we check with clerk of the board. Betsy, was there anything else planned on the 15th other than our joint strategic meeting at 10 a.m.?
I will check the board calendar now. One moment, please.
Okay, thank you.
I don't believe so. I think we're
Okay.
free that day.
So it'd be good to have the entire board. So Don, would you, Director Eversole, would you be able to get back to us on that? And if you're available, and let us know? Is Director Eversole available? Don Eversole? Is he muted?
He's not muted. He is in attendance. Director Eversole, can you get back to us on whether or not you'll be available at 2 p.m. on April 15th?
You get back to
Oh, it looks
Betsy.
like we may have just lost him.
And President Johnson, I'm gonna have to renege on the 15th. I have a medical appointment I have to attend to.
Okay. Okay, and the 14th, I have other commitments. So
Try for Friday.
Friday the 16th, how's that Friday 16th for everyone? Here we go. Director Barrett.
I'm
You're not gonna be in
available.
Texas, are you? Okay, good. And let's do Director Fuller.
At 2 o'clock, unfortunately, I'm not available.
You're not?
No, sorry.
Okay. Well, you know what? Rather than going around all this, I think that Betsy, let's go ahead and get some dates and let people go ahead and contact you to help us do that, okay?
Yes, we can put together a list of short
Yeah, that'd
list
be
of
better.
dates
We're
and
gonna go
times.
around in circle. And we got a big agenda. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for. Oh, is Don back? Don?
Yes,
Yes. Would you get back to Betsy, if you're available on the 15th, but now Director Newquist is not available in the afternoon. So I think what we're going to do now is Betsy's going to put some dates together, and then we all could kind of
Fine.
check the dates and then go by that. Okay. Thank you. I think that'd be easier. Okay. Thank you for all your input. So let's go into, was there anything from the public? Comments from the public on the Highway 101 sewer main crossing relocation project? Any hands raised, Betsy?
Madam President, there are no hands raised in Zoom at this time.
Let's go into the next item, number 7, which is the committee reports. And we have Director Barrett and Eversole on the A&O committee.
Okay. Director
Director Barrett,
Eversole.
thank you.
Okay. Director
I'm here.
Eversole. Yeah. Director
I'm
Eversole and
here.
I met on March 16th for an Administration and Operations Committee meeting at 2 p.m. We wanted to have one last meeting with Alex Alonso before he retired on the 19th and go over things that he may know about that we didn't. We went through the lift stations that the district has. We talked about the long-range project planning, which was discussed at the Strategic Planning Committee. And those are essentially the items that were in our board meeting probably a month ago that itemized all the different things through time that Alex had concerns about that we need to budget and take a look at. We had, let's see here. One of the things I asked about was the Miramar lift station for the Miramar Hotel there is essentially has a capacity of 100,000 gallons a day. I asked what it was doing in first quarter of this year, it's 18,000 a day. And so my wonder was why we requested them to build a 100,000 gallon facility if they're only doing 18,000 gallons, but in another quarter, they had 27,000 gallons. And it was gone on projections, staff said, from the Miramar group, if they had total capacity in hotel and things of that nature. One of the things with that was interesting during the discussions that Alex talked about was the wet well on that particular lift station is huge. And in fact, at 18,000 gallons a day, they had, staff has to go in there and Rico, Mike can correct me on this, but they have to actually spray water on the sides of that tank to keep things wet because the tank is way overkill for what's going through there right now. So this relocation of our lines across Caltrans will help out, and that additional flow will go through that station, hopefully keep that wet tank, call it a wet well, more full. We talked about the Channel Dry lift station is about 33,000 gallons a day. Bonnie Mead, 16,600. Eucalyptus, about 3,000 gallons a day, but it just services those few houses along the beach there. Posolipo, it has capacity, I believe, 130,000 a day. At one time, it was doing 117,000, so it was almost at max capacity prior to the pandemic. Let's see here. So that was about the stations. The pilot recycled water, we were updated on its status. The pressure vessel has been replaced. It was at no cost to us. IDE did that. Had to wait a while for the part. The MSD lift station flow, we talked about the different flow rates and things there. Yeah, large wet well. And that pretty much sums up our March 16th meeting, unless Director Eversole has some more things he'd like to add.
Nothing to add.
Okay. That's that one. Anything from the public on that?
Director Barrett, I've got a question for you, if I
Okay,
may.
you bet.
I think I heard that you may propose that the Miramar lift station maybe replace the Pospolito lift station?
No, currently right now, our lines that we have to replace under Highway 101 go to Posolipo.
Yeah, exactly.
And the staff is recommending that those lines instead take that flow to the Miramar lift station
Okay,
when the new lines are put in.
okay,
It will help out with the Posolipo, which is almost maxed out. And it will help tremendously with the maintenance of the huge Miramar wet well that we have by having that additional flow. So it solves two problems with, you know, that relocation of that flow to the Miramar lift station, or what, yeah, Miramar.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any questions from the public before we move on to the next one?
Director Barrett, I have a question.
Okay.
Is there any master plan? Because I know you're mentioning the locations of these different lift stations. Do we have a master plan at all? Of all of this, what you're talking about?
You're talking about a location map?
Yes.
I'm not sure. I believe that map that's up in the what used to be the lunchroom in the maintenance building on the wall there, it shows the lines that are being cleaned and maintained by the district, the 76 miles. I believe all the stations, lift stations are on that same map.
Okay, it'd be nice to see if we could get some kind of a mapping. And I have talked to the interim general manager about this, and I think that it'd be great if we could get the interim general manager to work with staff or how they could implement this where we all could look at this more transparent, where we could see where the mapping is and where these different locations are. Because I know you say it's in different locations, but it'd be nice that everyone could be able to look at this.
Well, let me give you just a roundabout. I know this is not a map, but the Channel Drive lift station is essentially, if you're driving down the road towards the Biltmore, it's on the left-hand side right before you get to Bonnymead. So it's right there. You probably pass it every day, or when you drive down there and you never noticed it.
Yeah, and I think that didn't Alex mention in our meeting that that's the one near Bonnymead that's going to have to be upgraded. I think there was something at the Bonnymead. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, he discussed, that's in a different meeting, but it has a small detention time. Detention time is the amount that the unit can be off, or the pumps, I believe.
Yeah.
And that the wet well will fill up. So essentially it has a small wet well.
Right, so it would have to be upgraded, right?
Well, it doesn't have to be. The flow's not that large. It's at 33,000 gallons now. But I mean, it needs to be looked at. His concern was the wet well was too small.
I think he said it was really old too, right?
It is old. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying about the master plan, and then kind of get the dates of these, you know, because some of this stuff is, I don't know how old it is, but you know, when I thought Alex did say it probably needed to be looked at and possibly upgraded or replaced, or I don't know. So it'd be nice if you had a master plan that we all know where all these are happening, because this is all going to cost money down the road. So it'd be nice to know where these are. So that's all I'm asking about a master plan.
Right. There are two ways to approach that: is get feedback from Rico and staff on doing upgrades, as you say, or replacing the lift station. And today's market, I discussed it a little bit with General Manager Wong. These units are prefab now. So you can buy an entire lift station, dig a big hole, drop it in there, good to go, and just plumb it up. So it's not as a big expense as it used to be when you had to build these things. And of course, the Miramar had to be built.
Right, that was
Um,
expensive.
6.2 million on that.
Yeah,
But in any case, Bonnie Mead is located, if people are familiar, you drive down San Ysidro Road, you go over 101. You go past the church there. You go down to the very end on your right is the security gate. That's entrance to Sea Meadows. And that pump station's inside Sea Meadows. It's called the Bonnie Mead Lift Station.
right.
Eucalyptus, of course, is down there where you look to your right there at the end of the road and you look at Sea Meadows, the security gate. If you look straight ahead to the ocean, the eucalyptus is down there right by the beach. May have a map coming up. Then, of course, Posilipo is essentially, if you're looking at the Miramar from Highway 101, look to the far left. There's a road beside the Miramar property there that goes towards the ocean but doesn't connect to it. And the Posilipo is right there by the railroad tracks on that road. So those are our current lift stations.
So there's four main ones. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and also the Miramar, of course. Everyone, if you're not familiar where the Miramar is, if you're 101 and look over towards the
No,
ocean,
huge.
it's on the left-hand side. It looks like a building, more or less, or a storage shed, a very large one. And that is the lift station right there.
Right.
And this is a map coming up there.
Oh, you do have it. Good.
Yeah.
You can see on the attached Google Maps, I can get into our GIS, which would probably be better. This is just very quickly on Google Maps. I have the lift stations labeled in blue. So you can see there are 5, lift station 1 on Channel Drive. You can see an image there. The Bonnie Mead or Edgecliff, like you said, that's within the community. Lift station 3 is the Eucalyptus. And over here we have Posilipo and Miramar. We have a district over on the left. Does that help? Would you prefer to see our GIS system?
Thank you, Betsy.
Okay,
As you can see, most of these lift stations are named on the street that they're located.
Notice that.
Thank you, Betsy.
okay.
Any more questions from anyone?
Good job, Director Barrett.
Oh, thank you. Well, we will put together something in our next A&O. That's a good suggestion by Madam Chair, is to go through the 5 lift stations, put down their maximum capability, put down their current flow rates. And I think another good number to look at is pre-pandemic flow rate. Go back to maybe January, December 2019. Just so we can see, what these lift stations are doing. We'll try to find the dates of construction. I believe most are going to be really close to when the district was formed in 61, would be my guess.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Except for the Miramar. The Miramar is probably about a year and a half old now, maybe. Something like that. It's fairly new.
Oh, no.
But we'll work on that on the next A&O committee meeting. I'll put that down.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That'd be
Sure.
great.
Got it. Okay. Is there anything from the public on that?
Okay, so we could, I think that pretty much answers for that A&O committee. Anything else, Woody? I think if not, we'll go into the strategic planning committee, and you're the chair on that one. So we had a presentation from Corolla, so you might want to look at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to do that Corolla presentation now? Or I think Rob Morrow's been holding.
Yeah, Rob is in in the,
I think I'll just give the committee report right quick and then let him give that
Okay.
presentation.
okay.
Quite a bit
Maybe,
happened,
Betsy-
quite a bit happened during that meeting. So,
Betsy, maybe you could pull that up. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
all right.
Woody.
So that meeting was called to order on April 1st of this year. In attendance were myself and of course, Director Johnson. We are on the Strategic Planning Committee for the Montecito Sanitary District. There was no old business, new business. We talked about the Montecito Sanitary District's 2007 bond. It's $10 million bond issue. And Betsy, you might want to pull up that chart that you did. Page 26 of 34.
Yes, I have it by fiscal year and then just only by project. So.
Yeah, I'd like to look at page 26 of 34 as printed, please.
Oh, sorry, the staff report?
There we go. So that's what was presented by staff during our meeting. It's always been a curiosity to me how the $10 million was spent. This gives you a little bit of idea right here, the breakdowns. That first item was the maintenance building. And let's see here. The budget was 1.6 million. That building's 3,606 square feet. 180,000 of the bond funding was used for that. So I'm assuming the district had the other 1,400,000 for it in account. Then you go down to the laboratory building. Total budget was 1,150,000 for round numbers. It looks like that you had 1,131,000 of the bond funds were used towards that. Is that correct, Betsy? The actual.
Yes, that's correct. We compared the fiscal year 10-11 CIP budget to the project list that we could find that's on the next two pages for bond expenditures. And although 1.147 was budgeted, actual expenditures only came out to 1.3131.
Okay. And then part of that $10 million bond was used to reline 27 miles of our 76 miles of pipe that we have, sewer main. Project date started 2004, ended 2015. Expenditure on that, let's see, 5,683,000. But only 2.2 million were bond funding. And then I asked staff to do a more detailed breakdown. There were essentially 30 other projects that $10 million was used by. So that will be the next thing that Betsy will bring up here. For layman's terms, I'm trying to get a handle on what it costs to line pipe the sewer main. There are some difficult areas, there are some easy areas, but ballpark round off is about $211,500 per mile. So that's not in today's dollars. That's in almost 8 years ago dollars. So I don't know how much it's escalated, but I would guess somewhere in the range of 230 to 240,000 per mile to line our sewer main now. And that's a teetotal guess. That may be low. Let's see here. That gives you a breakdown of the 10 million and how it was used from the 2007 bond. Of course, we're still paying that down. That bond should be paid off in year 2030. All things go smooth. Before Dana and I were elected to the board in 2017, there's a 10-year waiting period that was explained to us by the guys on Wall Street that put these bonds together. You can't refinance these for 10 years. At that 10-year interval, interest rates looked more reasonable. So it was refinanced, but also the district put up another $1.5 million in cash in order to refinance it. So that's what we're paying on now. And it also shortened the period of time from 30 years to year 2030. What I had some questions on, I just saw this in our packet for this week's meetings. What is defined as lift station number 4? What's that 1.9 million? Which one is lift station 4? Does anybody know?
Force main.
Director
There's
Barrett,
almost 2 million.
lift station number 4 would be Posillipo lift station.
Okay, so I know the electrical is upgraded. What did you spend almost $2 million on?
I believe it was the electrical, all the pumping, all the pumps and the force mains.
Okay. So nothing was done to the wet well. It's the same size as it was beforehand.
Same size, yes.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Plant electrical control panel, 629,000. Do you know what panel that is, Rico, by chance?
That one I'm not 100% sure on. I know that we have quite a bit of panels here at the lift station, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly which one it was.
Yeah. The only reason I ask is that I don't know when those monies were expended, that 629. I believe there's another chart that Betsy has, but we're looking at upgrading our electric panel right now for another $500,000. When was that spent?
What date, you know?
Yeah. Well, you enlarged it. I can't see it now. It's too far to the right.
Sorry, the
Let's see. I think I
total
can find it on this.
29,000. The bulk of that was spent in fiscal year 2009, 2010.
Yep, 2009 and 10, so 10 years ago. It would be disheartening to me to know that we spent $629,000 on electric panels that we're about to spend another $500,000 on.
$1 million.
Yeah, I'd just like to know which panels are, and they may be totally separate, different panels. I don't know.
They are, Director Barrett. I believe the influent pump station panels were replaced, as well as digester blower panels, I believe. So yeah, they are different panels.
Okay. And Betsy, that the money spent on the lab there, that's where you get that 1,131,000 is that breakdown that you have for that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It'd be helpful if they had dates, I guess, maybe.
The dates are on page 28 of 34 is printed in our packet
Okay,
for
great.
today.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to see. It's in that blue. It printed out on mine dark gray, but I can still see the
Oh,
dates
right.
there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. It is hard to see.
On the station number 4 that you questioned, and that area that's located, is that going to be area where anything to do with where the 101 sewer main crossing relocation project going to be? I think that that location where that lift station is that part of that project? The
Well,
highway
currently right now, and Rico can correct me, he's much more familiar than I am with this, but
Yeah.
the current
So, highway
affluent goes through our lines underneath 101 into Posillipo.
Yeah, but I think somehow, is that going to have to be the one that's relocated or
Going to be
eliminated?
relocated. That
It has to be.
Mr. Wong says is going to be $500,000 to $1 million is going to be changed from the Posillipo and going to the Miramar lift station.
Director
Right
Barrett.
after we spent 2 million. What date was that we put? That one's really old or something? Number 4, I guess the date.
Well, they're all, I'm guessing, around 1960s.
Okay.
Director Barrett.
Yes.
That Posillipo lift station doesn't just take in the flow that comes across the highway. It actually takes in the flow that from all the frontage properties along the coast there. So it wouldn't be totally removed.
No. I'm just saying that just the flow coming across. Do you have any estimate on that flow that's coming across 101? How much that is?
Not off the top of my head, no. It's gotta be around probably 80,000 gallons a day.
Because in our A&O committee meeting, you said right now that Posto Lipo is moving 117,000 gallons a day.
Yeah,
So I just wondered how much of that's going to be reduced when it's
it's gonna
diverted to
be,
the Miramar.
it would be significant. It would be over 80, I would guesstimate, but safely guess, it's gonna be over 80.
So Posto Lipo will be down about 40,000 a day.
Yeah, if that,
So,
possibly more, yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't think Posto Lipo is going to need a ton of work unless something comes up. Since these funds were expended on it, previously.
I'm just
2.2 million.
I'm just looking here, Director Barrett, you also have a $287,000 plus on a remodel existing lab electrical control panel. So that's in the lab building, I guess.
Right.
So that's a remodel of existing, but that was a new building at that 1,131,000. So I guess my question is, I think I heard something, but I don't know. Maybe this could be clarified. When you get a bond and even if you refi, you have it earmarked for that originally essential service building, the lab and the maintenance building, those three areas. So it was used, the balance was used for all these other areas. Is the bond, when you have a bond, are you allowed to do that? Does the bank allow you to do? If you have a bond and you have applied for this bond and you earmarked it for 3 items, and then you come back and you now have used this money for 20 other items, is that something that is allowed by that bank, or is it the bank that's in New York? Or I haven't heard about this, so I need to kind of get some clarification on that. Maybe legal counsel could help us with that, because I think I've always heard that it was brought up. So maybe does legal counsel have any knowledge of anything about this bond funding that is earmarked for specific projects? And then we use the money for, I don't know how many are here, 20, 30 projects. You got a truck at hoist generator, maintenance of truck, a muffler, monster replacement. You have all these other little areas. I don't know if that's allowable or not. Is legal counsel, Mark, you're muted, I believe.
Madam President, I don't think I see Mark on the meeting any longer. If you would like me to research the bond indenture requirements held with Bank of New York, I can look at those to see if the funds were restricted in any way to any specific uses and bring it back to the board at the next meeting.
Okay. Do you know which bank that was, or which company that was?
BNY Mellon is our debt servicer.
Okay. And then when it was refinanced, I know it was brought in a lower, really good, do you recall what that was? Was it like, it was refined again in?
Yes, in 2017, there were, I believe, 7 years brought off of the term of the bond repayment.
Thank you, Betsy.
Now, it's interesting to note in this breakdown, the new lab building is called lab improvements, so don't be confused by that. I don't know why it was labeled lab improvements since it's a new building.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah. I don't know if that was an attempt to skirt permitting or what back in the day.
There should be a purchase order for that. A breakdown. And and again, I know this goes back sometime. I just want to be careful because if the bank and we have to come back with a payment and all that, but I don't know what the requirements are. So maybe the finance, you and Don.
Yeah,
Hey, 2 PM, so
Yeah,
we'll discuss the
please.
bond
we'll
funds.
look at it.
Yeah, would you please? I really be kind of interested in finding out the details of that. Thank you.
I would just assume that they were spent or, allocated correctly. But I have no idea how the bond was set up or if there are restrictions on the funds. But this was a great for the A&O committee to see
Mhm.
and get a good breakdown on, where the funds have been spent. And it also helped the strategic planning committee for long-term planning, because now with this detail that Betsy's provided us and staff as well, and Rico's input since he's been there for quite a few years, we can see what's been worked on at the plant and these lift stations, and then take a look at Alex's projection on what things will need work in the future as per Madam Chair's question on the Channel Drive lift station. And that'll help us with both A&O and strategic planning, as well as budgeting for these projects as they come up. So
I think when you
Lots of-
apply for a bond or even like they earmark certain things. So that's all I have heard. So I don't know all the details, but I'd like to see that. Okay. So just a
well,
little bit.
let's see. All right, going on with other things we talked about. This is still the strategic planning committee meeting.
Corolla came in and Rob Morrow did a presentation. Was that the one that?
Rob Morrow and Andy
Right.
Salveson.
Yeah,
And
that
it was a very
presentation-
lengthy presentation. We asked lots of questions of these guys. The main question was, in their experience, who is burdened with the expense of these recycle projects? And far and above, it's usually the water district has the burden of the entire project. There are instances where the districts do share, but there weren't too many of those to draw on. I asked questions about the expense of pumping recycled water back up to the golf courses. And Rob Moore will get more into that with his presentation, probably, if anyone has questions on that. Cost to design. We have an estimate, I think, in the range of $376,000 right now for a 30% design on the PDR and the first phase 1 recycle machine. I asked how much it would cost to take that to 100% design, which then you go out for a bid and someone builds a machine. And total estimate by the gentleman giving the presentation, Andy and Rob, was around $500,000. So if this design that we're discussing with the Montecito Water District goes forward, of course, with 30% design, please keep in mind that that's the first 376,000, then you'll need another $500,000 to take it to full 100% design, or somewhere in that range. Let's see here.
I think they brought up about if you do that, then there will be some maintenance things that would have to be taken care of by the sanitary district. Also, too, if they put the equipment on the sanitary district, then I think we had legal counsel look at that, because there's some, and I think even Rob Morrow, and he's out in the public, but he mentioned about the land value. It's something that could be some kind of a trade-off, and you would have to have possibly the people that take care of the equipment would have to be a special certification, and possibly more than one person, additional staff, whether it is the water district or the sanitary district. But then you get into you know, who works on which project, you know, equipment. So there's a lot of questions that was brought up, I believe, right, Woody? So,
Yeah, lots of questions. And I posed the question on the recycling machine, once it's up and going and operating, had they seen instances where that equipment is essentially maintained and operated by water district employees? And they said yes. So essentially either district could, you know, operate and maintain the machinery. It doesn't just have to be the sanitary, as I thought. We talked about our machine that we have right now, our little skid mounted machine. I don't want to call it pilot because people get confused that that's servicing the cemetery, and that's not correct. It's our small machine that we're learning from, and found out, of course, that we have oil and grease in the water from Montecito. We have high saline because everyone has a water softener. But that machine by IDE is a pulse machine. And I wasn't trying to get too in depth here, but essentially the concurrence by Andy was that he would not recommend that type of machine for phase one. That it's still a growing technology. It's still in infancy right now. Oh, we did talk about phase one. I was confused on doing phase one for a cemetery only or whatever. Rob, Andy said that what would happen is that you build a platform that would handle all 450,000 gallons a day that our plant would be able to recycle. And you also build the electric panels and everything to do 450,000 gallons a day. Then you essentially just module in one machine to do phase one. So you're going to have a huge expense up front on this phase one, because essentially you're building the infrastructure for the entire 450,000 gallons. Then when you go to phase two or phase three, whatever happens to take care of the rest of the gallons per day, there's going to be less expense because you already have the base pad, the concrete, everything in place, the electrical panels, everything's done. So there's a trade-off as you go through this, you know, recycling and phasing up, you know, type thing. He talked about another district that had done the same thing, just completed Las Virgenes, that they're at 100 gallons per minute. It was just completed last year, 2020, and they just, you know, described what was done there. Of course, that one will be gearing up to 6 million gallons per day, which is, for reflection, ours is 560,000 gallons a day. So it's 10 times larger than us. I think that about does it on the bond and the recycling. One thing I asked about was, did anybody have any questions on any of that?
also, Director Barrett, the presentation from Corolla that was presented at our special meeting, or our committee meeting, I'm sorry, what is online. So if anybody would like to see that, it is online on our website.
It's also in your board packets today. It's the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages. Yeah.
But I was letting the public know as well that if
Right.
they like to look at.
Any questions from the public on any of that thus far? I kind of jumped ahead. I went from A to C. Now I'm going back to B. B had to do with the district sewer lateral rebate program policy regarding director participation. My feeling was that this rebate program was started in 2005. None of the directors that are on the board now were on the board in 2005 are on the board now. And my feeling was that directors should be treated just like any other ratepayer and should be able to participate in the rebate program. There was a memo from council. Betsy, were you able to find that?
I was not. I was hoping for the opportunity to ask council if he still has that memo, but it looks like he's no longer on the meeting. Sorry.
Yeah. I don't know if this is a committee meeting report, but I would like to, bring that to discussion by the board here and hear everybody else's thoughts on that.
Do you want to discuss that now or?
What's the correct procedure, do you think?
It's part of our committee meeting. So it was discussed at our meeting, but I think that if you want us to take action.
Needs to be
we could put-
agendized
Yeah, I think we could put that on our agenda.
for May.
agendized for-
Yeah, okay.
That's okay, if that's okay with you. And then we could go into more detail.
Then everybody
but-
can discuss it at that time. That's a good idea.
Exactly. And I think then we'll have Mark there and then maybe the memo or whatever that happened. What year was that?
2005, I believe,
Oh, wow. Okay.
15 years.
Okay. Well, anything could be changed. Is our board have to agree on it or see what that exactly about? Okay. So
Right.
if you're okay with that,
I'm fine with that. That ends the presentation on the strategic planning committee unless anyone had any questions
yeah.
from the
I wanna
board or
thank-
public.
Yeah, I just want to thank, if Rob Morrow's there, I want to thank him and also Andy for coming into our meeting, committee meeting, and did a excellent presentation. So thank you very much. It really enlightened us on what's needed. So thank you very much, Rob and Andy, if they're there. Okay, thank you.
Are they going to talk?
Yeah.
Is Rob Morrow going
Um,
to comment at all?
Yeah, is Rob Morrow? I don't know if he's still there. Betsy, would you please?
I'm here.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Hi, Rob.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, could you just let us know what you think the next steps are?
Yeah, maybe with the document you have pulled up now, if you go to the second page, and then scroll to the, yeah, there you go. This helps because it breaks. And first, I'll say Andy couldn't make it because he had a meeting already scheduled during this time.
Thank you. But thank you for being
so-
here.
So this breaks down the four components of the project, and the first one, it just basically getting up to speed the first month, and the second one's where a lot of the discussion and work happens, which is the alternatives analysis, and it's important, and this is a lot of what we talked about last week, because of well, there's several issues to consider, but the simple way to approach a project like this is to put some treatment on the back end of an existing plant and just deal with the what's coming out of the plant. And so you're seeing what's happening with that by doing that with the current I can't call it a pilot, the current project at the sand district with oil and grease issues. And so the alternatives analysis is really getting at how can we tackle this oil and grease issue and prepare the effluent for RO, reverse osmosis, for salinity reduction. And there's lots of ways to do that. And some are within the existing treatment process. Some are replacing the existing treatment process. And then that gets into, is this a one-off solution, or do we want to consider the age of the district's sanitation district's existing infrastructure? Is there any benefit of doing some upgrades at this point, or is it better to wait? So anyway, that's really where I think a lot of the good discussion will come. And then the next phase is the core of the work, which is the preliminary design report. And it's the goal for that, in my mind, is well, doing a preliminary design on the treatment facilities, the distribution facilities, and customer coordination. And whereas the first step, the alternatives analysis, is really focused on the treatment. And what comes out of the treatment recommendation does impact preliminary design and 30% design and onward. And so as part of the preliminary design, what we're looking at is ultimately doing the recommended large non-potable reuse project that was recommended in the Water District's Recycle Water Facilities Plan from a few years ago. But also looking at what we're calling a phase one, which is going to the cemetery and potentially some other customers in the area. But looking at what we're just talking about, being able to do it ensuring that the large project is cost effective, and then seeing how you can build the phase one also in a cost effective manner. And so, doing one or the other project is one approach, but doing them in a phased manner has a third approach. And so we want to make sure we're accounting for those pieces. And then assuming the numbers in the preliminary design report come out as acceptable, then we proceed to the 30% design for a phase one report. And that would set up going to final design and construction. And maybe I'll add one more thing that's not explicitly called out here, but it's obviously been talked about, is cost share and who does what on the water district versus sand district. And I think the alternatives analysis is a good first step for that discussion, because what the treatment process, where it is, how it works, impacts that, who benefits, what are the benefits of each of these elements of the project. And then also, after you get through an alternatives analysis, you're talking about how you're actually going to operate this project. And so talking through who would do what, would you be reimbursed, what would be the structure for that. And there's lots of examples out there that can be walked through as part of this. So I think that's a long answer to your question, but did that address your question?
I think so. I just want to see this. It seems like we haven't made any progress for a while, and I just want to see what we can do to move this along.
Thank you, Rob.
Well, I can tell you we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rob.
There's going to be another meeting, to refresh my memories, on the 15th with the Water District. And that's a joint meeting, Thursday at 10 a.m. And I think that originally they were going to talk about the phase one, but I think there's a lot of information that Rob and Andy brought up, so we might be able to move this along and come up with some answers. Which direction? I think we have to hear from the Water District, because I think every day changes. I don't know, so we need to hear from them, and they've had several meetings. So again, we'll see what happens on the 15th, and again, we'll see if this project can be moved forward. And I think we have, Carrie participates in that meeting as well, or she's there as well. So, and Woody and I will be there, and anyone else is welcome to attend that meeting on the 15th. Okay. So thank you, Rob, so much. And again, it's on our website if anybody wants to take a look at it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rob, for your time. Appreciate you hanging in there with us.
Yeah. Okay. So there's my agenda. Oh boy. Here we are. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, my paper is moved around. So we have the committee reports completed. So we have this district
Uh,
operation.
No, they're not completed yet, President Johnson.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Here we go. The Policies and Procedures Committee. I'm so sorry. I want this meeting to, we're at 4 o'clock. Okay, so Policies and Procedures Committee. So we have Dana and Woody, is that right?
That's correct.
Yeah, so Dana, do you want to go ahead?
Well, I'll try and make this brief so you can make your deadline.
No,
Under
there's no
policies
deadline.
and procedures, we had a brief meeting, and the main topic on policies and procedures is what recommended time period of holding a recording of a meeting would be reasonable for the district. And we looked at 6 months, we looked at a year, we looked at going out from that, and reasonably, Director Barrett and I landed on maybe 1 year of keeping recorded meetings.
Okay. I think that, I know that our legal counsel is not present. Is that correct, Betsy?
Correct. I don't see Mark Mannion on the meeting any longer.
So so Mark had mentioned that it is required to keep the recording at least 30 days. So again, legal counsel's not here with us. So that might be able to be flexible to look at a longer time. And again, I think that would be up to our board. But again, I think Mark is not here to give me that language. But he did mention that the Zoom is required. And right now they've been just cut off or eliminated right after the minutes are approved, which is usually pretty much by the next board meeting or sooner. So like in a couple weeks. So again, legal counsel would advise us, and I think it is flexible. Is there any other thing that you want to talk about, Dana?
Madam President, directors of the board, to summarize legal counsel from last meeting, I believe he said that, like you stated, the law says that you must keep them for 30 days and that the board may establish a policy to keep them if they wish to do so any longer than that, but cannot shorten it. So, you know, if we want to update the policy, we can probably add this to the next agenda to make a vote or motion item. Sorry,
Would that
Director,
be
I did not mean
No,
to
that-
interrupt.
Yes, thank you, Betsy. So would that be helpful that we put this on your next agenda? And do you want to make a motion, or do you feel like
Well,
it is
I
on
mean,
the agenda now?
we could, since it's on the agenda, I could move and get this over with, that our meetings be recorded up to 1 and including 1 year.
I'll second that.
Can we have a discussion? Director Fuller, you look like you pushed your button.
Yeah, I think we need to clarify, Director Newquist, our recordings should be kept for 1 year. I think the motion should be. Does that sound better?
That's correct, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Just further discussion on that, staff, Betsy did some research on this. Sharon Byrne at our last meeting had suggested the Montecito Association saves theirs on Google Drive. There can be problems for the public if you don't have Gmail and hooking up and using, Google Drive. Whereas YouTube, Betsy's found to be very smooth. Also, there's no limit on space on YouTube. Google Drive limits you to 15 gigabytes. We'd have to pay for additional storage. And she can bring that up more if anyone has any questions. For Betsy, she can explain it to you.
Okay.
But I would say that YouTube is fine with me if there's a link on our website somehow so people can look at a meeting 3 months ago if they want to.
Yeah, Director Barrett, I did some research. The county MBAR is now doing their meetings and recordings, and you could go back to look at them and get reminders and everything like that. That is on YouTube. And I
YouTube,
think
okay.
also, yeah, it is. And also, I think, I know MBAR, I don't know about the MPC, but I can verify that. But again, I'm okay with YouTube to it, you know,
Okay.
and I think that gives a chance for anyone to take a look at it. They can look on their phone, their iPad, the computer. I'm fine. YouTube is
YouTube's
cool.
easy. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a really good, you know. So do you want to is there a motion? I guess, is there anyone from the public would like to say anything? I don't see any. Is there a hand raised? I think
Madam President, members of the board, I see no hands raised at this time.
thank you, Betsy. So you do have a motion. I believe there was a second.
Yes.
Okay, so Betsy, go ahead and take roll call.
Director Barrett,
Aye.
Director Eversole,
Aye.
Director Fuller,
Aye.
Director Newquist,
All right,
and Director Johnson.
Aye. And that is to store them on YouTube or record on YouTube?
That
Sorry.
they should be kept for 1 year, and we can add to the motion on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Very good, thank you. Was there anything else, Director Newquist?
that was the totality of our policy and procedures
Okay.
meeting.
Thank you so much. Oh, that's great, that's fine. And now and this Joint Strategic Planning Committee, Montecito Water District, that is for April 15th at 10 a.m. So that's all that was. It was just changed. So we didn't have our meeting. So, and again, I don't think we're going to be talking about, they did ask me if we should do like a review of the first phase of that, Director Barrett, if you're interested to hear that. I think there
What-
was, Tony hasn't seen that. In the first phase, I think there was some kind of a preliminary report on that recycle that was done, and the water district paid for that. Wasn't that,
Let's see, what was that?
it was they paid for that. It was like Carrie knows what that was. Carrie, is she
Yes,
there?
it was the recycled water feasibility study.
You recall that, Director Barrett? And I think
Well, feasibility study is like a $400,000 deal. I don't think that's what the water district did.
The water district paid for that study.
they
is
got a
that-
grant too. They did get a grant for, I think, a portion of that.
Correct.
That's what Rob had mentioned. I think it was like, I don't think, was it 400, but we could verify that.
No, it was around like 175. And I think they got a grant for 75,000.
Is that
And-
completed now?
Yeah, that was completed back in May of last year. That was when the final report is. It's on their website.
Feasibility study.
Yeah, and that was for the recycle, the part of that phase. And that was done by, Rob brought that up at our meeting.
Oh, I think you refer to it as a feasibility study.
Yeah, that was
Um,
it.
Right, for the recycling.
Yeah.
That
that's
took
what-
that took into account a lot more than just recycling. Is that the same study that they did that took into account the water district's needs for water for the next 30 years, including droughts and all those
No.
projections?
That was a different study.
Oh.
So there's the recycled water feasibility study, and then they have a supply plan study, which was a different study.
Okay, that's the one I'm thinking about.
Got it. The supply plan study was done by Mr. Bachman, Dr. Bachman, Steve Bachman.
Mhm. May 2019,
Yeah, so
Woodard and Curran.
this was Woodner and Kern that as the facilities plan, the feasibility study. But
Okay,
Woodard-
you're calling it a feasibility study. This is the Woodard and Curran study on 27 different ways to recycle.
Right.
Okay, I don't call this a feasibility study. I just call this a recycle study. Okay, yeah.
Okay, so the general manager, Nick Turner, and their board are willing to give us a brief presentation of that, just to refresh. I mean, I haven't seen it, so again, you were on the board at that time, so if that's something of interest, then I could let the general manager know, because they were be willing to do that for anyone that's interested. I mean, if, you know, Director Fuller wanted to look at that as well, so.
I don't need to.
What that study did, it took into account every single way you can use recycled water. And the different methods for gathering it and distributing it, everything. There were 27 different ways to do it.
Oh, good.
They funneled that down to 4.
Okay,
And then when Ken Coates and the water district are talking about looking at things from 10,000 feet, essentially a broad view of something, that's what this study is. It doesn't get down to the nits and gritties of what we're talking about with this 30% design study. But I think it's very good for people. It'd be great to hear a presentation. And if, you know, Director Fuller doesn't want to, that's super also, but it's a wealth of information. It takes into every consideration. You can run a line, where it goes, the golf courses, and they looked at everything. It's a massive study. I think it's, I want to say, yeah, 154 pages. But it's a great read if you don't have anything to do at nighttime.
or weekend, or the weekend. Well, that's why I was thinking that they could, they're willing to just do like a brief overview, which might be good, just to refresh everyone's memory, what direction and why they're doing the 30% study now as well, from that part to the 30%. So it might be worth looking at. Doesn't hurt.
No.
As a brief report, I'd like to see it. I could read it, but I think it'd be better if someone explains, because they could go through it a lot quicker, and I'll read it, and then it makes sense to me when someone actually points out certain things. And you have.
Dynamics have changed. What would be interesting is to see this presentation, maybe not in the same meeting, but also see the presentation on their water supply plan that they did. The dynamics on that has changed a bit with the desal deal.
Okay.
But what I discern from it, and maybe they can give us a brief on that supply plan also, but
Okay.
taking into account future droughts and everything else, the water district does not need any more water, which makes me question recycle. So I don't know. It's
I
interesting.
think that's, yeah, we need to talk to them about that. The direction, are they it sounds like they're changing their
Oh, no,
direction?
they're not changing anything. Everybody wants to do recycle.
Right.
Carrie has something there. What's that?
Yeah, you're correct, Woody, that their supply plan shows that recycled water is not needed for supply, but they did have a workshop recently where they talked about recycled water quite a bit and how it's an environmental issue. So they still see recycled water as something that needs to be done. It's just put under a different category in their kind of hierarchy of needs.
Right.
So it's something to do with the state, because there's a state requirement, I think, right? Isn't that right? 2022, there's some kind of requirement by the state, because there's going to be a huge amount of dollars that is going to be available. And I'm not talking about a small amount, I'm talking about billions of dollars. So again, the state is going to be providing for programs that have kind of something that they need. So I think it's willing to look at that. And if we have our ducks in a row, it might be something to look at for the recycle. You
Madam
know,
President, directors of the board, there's a member of the public with their hand raised.
oh,
good.
okay. Who's that?
Mark
Okay, so
Hazard?
just so that, I just finished my statement, there is, money that's going to be allotted for this recycle. And it's quite a bit. So, yeah, let's go. If Woody, and any of our board is ready, we could go ahead and ask the public if they have any comments.
I just had one other thing is that it's a very complicated, there's another law that just went into effect that Arnold Schwarzenegger put into effect when he was governor. It was an attempt to cut back on the use of water in California.
Yes.
And Floyd Wicks and all those guys know the name of the law and everything, and I can't remember it, but it takes into account the last 3 years, the last year, whatever amount of water that the water district has sold. And they're reduced by 30%. They can't sell any more than a 30% reduction of that amount. The water district can explain this much better than I'm doing. But what's intriguing is that recycled water is not included in that count on water volume. So any recycled water is not subject to that law that Governor Schwarzenegger put in effect that just came into action like last year, I think.
Okay, but now I think the state is going to be offering, programs where you can do the recycle. So let's do the, Woody, thank you, Director Barrett. But let's go ahead if it's okay to go to the public. So Betsy, would you go ahead and acknowledge who the public is?
Yes,
public?
Mr. Hazard, if you would like to unmute yourself and you're able to use video at this time.
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are. We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay,
Welcome,
I
welcome,
think I
Mr.
can help
Hazard.
you, I think I can help you clarify a couple of the points that you've raised. Doreen,
thank you.
You're right that there is a $66 billion fund coming down devoted to water. And so that fund is going to be used for projects that involve, the first priority will be projects that involve. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what happened? Yes. Yeah.
It'll
Can you
be-
repeat that again?
Yeah, the first priority will be projects that involve multi-districts and have 100% shovel-ready projects ready to go. Secondly, last week, the water district did define recycling wastewater as their top priority. They called it a moderate high, and that's the most important one they had.
Okay.
You were also right that when they did the desal deal with the city, that gave them enough water. And so you would say, the question was asked, well, would that dampen their enthusiasm to do recycled water? And the answer to that is absolutely not, because what they recognize is this year they're only going to get a 5% allocation from their state water program. That's 3,300 acre feet. And when you only get a 5% allocation, that state water is costing them $35,000 an acre foot. And so they want to look at recycled water again to fulfill that gap. And the second thing is that if they don't replenish their underground water here, if they don't do that, and those wells go dry, suddenly their demand for water skyrockets because there's 1,000 wells out there. And the minute they go dry, they're going to turn to Montecito water and put new demand. So for all those reasons, recycled water is at the top of their priority list. The other thing that they wanted to communicate is that the community itself, in all their election campaigns, has said one of their top priorities is to stop dumping water into the Pacific Ocean. And that means all water. That means all 550,000 gallons per day, or at least as much as you can stop dumping.
And so they're listening to that and saying, we want to, when we look at these studies, the Corolla study and the Woodward study, purple pipe solutions of any kind are becoming less and less attractive because you've got to tear up the community. Now you could do a cemetery project and only have a short pipeline, but that project, if expanded to going up the hill to the golf courses and other places, would involve old technology. It would involve digging up the entire community. And none of the golf courses that they've talked to want the recycled water because they both have wells. So this charge of, well, we're doing this for the golf course is completely false. So I think what you're going to be look at it is a relook at the Corolla study and the current study and say, it doesn't make any sense to do a purple pipe recycled system and to design that to a 30% shovel-ready project is even dumber. And so I think they're going to change the focus of that to say what we should do is we should study, we should put all of our dollars behind studying indirect potable use, which is the one where you recycle the water and inject it into the ground, whether that's in Carpinteria or where it is. And the second thing you want to look very closely at is in 2022, the state has to give an answer to direct potable use. What are they going to do with that? And so 2022 is a year away. And
Right.
so, you know, it's those two technologies that they want to look at, which says that all the money that sanitary spends on what he calls these little tiny recycling projects and the buying of equipment for that is not a good idea. Because
Thank you, Bob.
if you want grants, if you want part of the 66 billion, you can't get grants for 20-year-old technology. And so you can get grants though for pilot programs that set a new direction. And so those are the issues that are going to be important in your meeting next week.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hazard, for your comments. Appreciate that. Was there anyone else in the public who would like to comment? If not, we could bring it back to the board. So Woody, did you want to finish your report or are you done?
Director Barrett, I believe you're muted. Sorry.
Woody,
There we go. Sorry.
I know,
I'm finished
you're
unless anyone had
thinking.
any questions.
I know. Well, I think we have next week on Thursday, and I think it's really important to attend that meeting, and anyone else in the public, just to be, because I think there is that law that's coming down, I think in 2022, there's a big amount of money, and I think we need to really look at this. So I think we could continue this next Thursday, and then we could bring it back to our board. Because I think there's still a lot of things that it might help us what direction we want to really go to for our district. Okay. Was there anything else? Woody, you have another question or anything?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone, their input, and I hope I'm not jumping around too much here. Okay, so we're gonna move on We've done all our committee reports, and we're going to move on to the district operations and maintenance. The information item and the interim general manager, Tony Wong, will provide informational only, I guess, on non-actionable updates regarding matters before the district. So interim general manager, Tony Wong, you have the floor. Are you here?
Yes,
Thank you,
I'm here.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Tony. Thank you for your patience.
Well, it's good, interesting to listen. And I must admit that since I got in here, everything is going 100 miles per hour. So,
A lot of-
on that basis, I've been pretty busy, and I wanted to make sure to assure everybody that I am doing the job that you guys wanted me to handle temporarily and keeping everything running. But I first got to commend the staff that has been helpful, and they are doing their best and effectively and efficiently for everything that I needed. And I hope everybody appreciate their duty with the shorthanded due to Alex's retirement. So above all, I wanted to assure the employee that they're holding safe and secure position to perform their best for the district. So because of the board of directors are working expeditiously toward hiring of the position of the permanent general manager, I think I would make the decision that I am not going to make any change of any position pending the appointment of your permanent general manager. So if there's any question, I'd be glad to answer. Thank you.
Thank you, interim general manager. I believe also legal counsel is not present, but he also stated in our last meeting that we should wait until we have our full-time permanent general manager on a daily basis to look at this. The general manager will be looking at the rate and everything that needs to be done more thoroughly, just because it's so involved. And he probably look at everything. So it's not just the promotions. So again, I think we have to respect our interim general manager and legal counsel for their recommendation to hold off until and I think that's why we are having these special meetings to look at, to appoint our general manager really soon. So we're doing it as fast as we can. And we are trying to do the process, but again, we're doing it as fast as we can. So thank you for that. Thank you, Tony. Okay. Is there any questions by our board? Betsy, do you see anyone on our board have any questions? I don't hear anyone who would say something. I hear.
I don't see anyone with their hand raised or unmuting themselves.
Okay. Oh, okay. Director Newquist.
Yes, President Johnson.
Do you have a comment on anything about the? No? Okay.
You mean discovery for the general manager? Is this what you're looking?
No, we can't have a discussion of the general manager just because we're going to go into closed session next Tuesday.
Correct.
But I'm just saying if anything that was Tony Wong that brought up about the promotions, if not, we move to the public and if they have any comment. Okay, any hands raised? I don't see any.
President Johnson, as far as the any increase in salary or promotions, I really do believe it may be agendized that the new general manager makes those decisions.
Absolutely.
I think it's their duty to do that.
Is that your motion?
That would be my motion, but
Okay.
that should be agendized.
Okay, agenda, and I believe that was, I heard, was it Eversole? Did you second? Who seconded that?
I
Did
don't
Emerson?
believe that
second.
was a motion. I believe that should be agendized.
Okay,
No, I agree.
okay, well, we did get a motion on that, so we could agendize that too. So we could confirm that definitely coming up in our next meeting, okay? Okay. So thank you for that. So is there any, I have so many printout stuff here. I don't think we have any agreements to sign. Operation and maintenance report, I'm sorry. Is there anyone here of staff, operations and maintenance report? You should have your report in your packet. And if you have any questions, please raise your hand and on the staff report. Okay. And staff report is on, that would be on towards the end there. It's on the site too. Okay. Is there any questions from the board? Is there any questions? I don't see any questions from the board. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Let me leave this meeting. Let me get out of here. Ally,
I apologize about that, Madam President, Directors of the Board. I believe there was a member of the public who had forgotten to mute themselves. So I have muted members of the public until they raise their hand at this point in time.
Thank you, Betsy. So the public, I don't see any raised hands at this time. So we'll go back to if there's anyone in the public would like to raise their hand, and Betsy will unmute you. Thank you. I don't see anyone. Betsy, do you see anyone?
I do not see any members of the public with their hands raised at this time.
Bring back to the board, and if anyone doesn't have a comment, then we could go ahead and hear something, but okay. We could talk about the items for the next agenda, and I think we have several items. Betsy, go ahead, and we don't have any agreements to sign at this time.
Correct. We don't have any agreements to sign. If you don't mind, I'd like to summarize items that have been placed on the next agenda as well as upcoming meetings, just so that everyone.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
Okay, so right now I'm showing that there's a joint strategic planning committee on April 15th at 10 a.m. We are going to try to schedule a special board meeting to approve an award of contract related to the Highway 101 project around the 16th or as soon thereafter as possible.
Okay.
There is a closed session at 2 p.m. on April 20th for the recruitment of general manager. The finance committee meeting will meet in the first week of May and monthly in the first week of each month going forward. And the next regular standing board meeting will be on May 13th.
Okay.
Is that correct, everybody?
Yes, that looks really good. And then Betsy, I will actually talk with you, and if there's any other meetings that we need a place for the committees, okay? But I will work with you on that, okay? To save some time.
I have about 4 items that we've discussed so far today to place on the next agenda. So I want to clarify, I think that apart from the Highway 101 project, which of course has its own special meeting on or around the 16th, the items for the next agenda will be placed on the agenda for May 13th. And those will be the time of day of the regular meeting of the board. I believe there will be, maybe a motion at that time to move it from 1:30 to 2 p.m.
Okay.
Adding the current lateral rebate replacement rebate program discussion to the next agenda and whether or not board members can participate. And then board directed staff, these aren't necessarily agenda items, but board directed staff to find the 2005 memo related to that project and to find out if bond funds were earmarked for certain projects other than that on which they were spent.
Thank you.
Are there
Okay.
any other items that were stated for next agenda that I have missed or that directors would like to add at this time?
We would like to agendize the new general manager to have the ability to promote and request any salary increases.
Okay, we can certainly add that to an agenda. I believe it's already under the purview of the general manager, but yes, we can add that to the agenda.
Okay,
Well, it's under the, we were talking about having it under the purview of the permanent general manager,
correct.
Yeah,
right?
Yes. That was what was recommended by legal counsel and our interim.
And
Okay.
are we doing anything to fill Alex's position?
Any what?
Alex Alonso's position? Are we advertising or?
Director Fuller, I believe if I understand correctly, that is the topic on which the board would like to state is under the purview of the new permanent general manager.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, that, well, but is
Okay.
that, we're not gonna start advertising or anything until we get a new general manager? Is that what's happening?
I think that stated that the general manager will make that review. I think at this time it was recommended. Alex had actually recommended Reiko as, and then it was the interim general manager, operational. But yes, and then we had, so that's gonna, the general manager will make that decision, Director Fuller. Okay. That's why we need a general manager. So anyway, thank you, Director Fuller.
Thank you.
Was there any other, did that answer your question? Probably not, but thank you. Is there any other comments or anything else? If not, we could look at some other things as well. I think there would be other things. There's plenty of things to add to the agenda. So we just want to make sure that we get the staff report, if we can, the week before. That's what our goal is. And I know that's a lot of work, but it's helps really the board, and that it would help us to help make some really solid decisions. Okay. So thank you very much for everyone. And would someone like to make a motion to
I
adjourn?
move that we adjourn.
Second it.
All right. Thank you all for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.